Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 16th Lawrence City Commission meeting. Glad to see so many of you here tonight. We just finished up with a study session on revenue forecast projections and a whole lot of other fun stuff. So we're going to be here for about the next 500 years on Tuesday nights at 3 o'clock for study sessions, so you're more than welcome to join us. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We don't have any recognitions or proclamations tonight. And all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered under one motion and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on those items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Is there an item that a member of the commission would like to have removed for separate consideration?
Mayor, item 7A, which is ordinance number 9112, revising the West Baldwin Creek gravity sewer line connection fee. And then item number 13, the street event temporary use of right-of-way permit on the 100 block of East State Street.
Okay. Any other? Okay. Any item that a member of the public would like to have removed for separate consideration?
I believe it's item number 10, in the corner of 11th Rhode Island.
Okay. Item number 10. Anything else? All right. So with the exception of items number 7A, 10, and 13, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of claims to 185 vendors for $2,763,440.19 and payroll in the amount of $2,163,866.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the consent agenda, added vendors and payroll, or claims and payroll, minus 7A, 13, and 10. All in favor, aye. 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 Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 7A, Commissioner Amyx.
Mayor, in looking at this, it seemed like that I've been involved with a lot with the West Baldwin Creek gravity sewer connection and the fee. I appreciate the work the staff has done in coming up with a final projected cost of $311 per gallon per minute, and that was a lot less than the $665 per gallon per minute that was proposed before. One of the things that I was looking at was had to do with the connections, the final connections of sewers in the area. I think that we had questions brought to us about the connection under George Williams Way and whether or not any of the properties to the west there have a connection at this point if development was to occur, and what would be the time frame in which that would be done.
Okay, Mike Lawless, Deputy Director for Utilities. In terms of the sewer under George Williams Way, there's a gap between to the east, and let me see if I can get the agenda up here. So on the map here, the sewer that you're talking about, Commissioner Amyx, is the George Williams Way sewer, and then there's a gap to the east into the Oregon Trail sewer. And basically, what we've got there is just the progression of development with the Oregon Trail project. It was phased over several different phases, and so they started around the pond, and then they did the main work here, and then the next phase of the work that they do would involve this area over here and include the construction of that sewer. In terms of timeline, at this point, I don't know what the development timeline for that next phase of Oregon Trail is for that sewer, but I can certainly work to find that out or inquire more about that.
Well, as I was telling Michael and Diane a little bit ago, is remember a meeting that I had with previous administrator and talking about that section would be done and that final hookup there would be, would be done, that final 280 feet. And I just want to make sure that we're not forgetting that, because as development occurs, to the west there, that needs to happen. So.
Yeah, and it's just a portion of that tract one. There is a sewer in the north west corner of that tract that will serve a portion of the tract, and then the other part of the tract would sewer through the George Williams Way and then the piece that isn't there. But, you know, I can certainly pursue that and try to figure out a timeline and when that might occur.
Okay. That'd be fine with me.
Okay. Anything else from the commission on 7A? Okay, public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, back to the commission.
Well, again, my main concern for bringing it up was, you know, as development occurs there to the west, we want to make sure that we have the utilities in. I'm going to guess it was 5 years ago I had the discussion with the previous city manager, and that segment was to be done. I just want to make sure that we haven't forgotten that, and that if we could find out at least some kind of timeline when it would happen, so that we have that in the record, I think it would be great.
Will do.
Okay.
So I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 9112, revising the West Baldwin Creek gravity sewer line connection fee.
Well, I'd move approval of that, and also I want to thank staff for the work that they did and making sure that those amounts came in less than half the per minute per gallon rate. So anyway, thank you.
All right, motion made to approve item number 7A by Commissioner Amyx, seconded by Commissioner Boley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item number 10, Mr. Myers. I guess, Mark, you're going to talk about it first. And then...
Yeah, I can if
Okay.
you all would like me to.
Sure.
Okay. Item 10 is the proposal to repair an inlet or the alternate of constructing a bulb out. We looked at two options. The inlet currently on the southwest corner of 11th and Rhode Island is in disrepair, somewhat of a safety concern. Currently we have it barricaded, but the inlet needs to be repaired. It is on a list that was developed as part of our annual maintenance program for our stormwater crew. There's 22 currently identified inlets in the 2015 project scope that will be done in 2015 within the budget authority that you all gave us in August of 2014 for this year. While we were in the process of getting started on that project, we had a request from the community to look at building a bulb out. Staff reviewed that recommendation, put a cost estimate together, sent it to the Traffic Safety Commission, along with some parking readjustments. Currently, that intersection, it doesn't align well if you're heading east on 11th Street. The southeast quadrant sticks out further to the north than the southwest quadrant. Staff recognizes the need to do a repair at some point in the future to that intersection to make that alignment better and to allow cars making a southerly turn off of 11th Street to be able to do that. So we looked at the option, developed a cost estimate. The first option was approximately $40,000 and looked like it was going to take 4 to 6 weeks of staff time to reconstruct or to construct a bulb out at that location. The main issue with that option was that there's underground utilities that would be required to relocate. Some of those we don't control, gas and so forth, so we would have had to coordinate that project with our utility partners to get those lines out of the way. I think there was a water line in the way as well. So we went back, revisited that item, and kind of advised the Mike Myers, who was the main driving person to bring these recommendations forward. He came back with a second proposal. Staff also reviewed that proposal. While it was basically in the same footprint of the current quadrant that's there, and on paper doesn't appear to require any utility relocates. It's not for certain that that would be the case until we actually do some pavement removal and understand where the existing utilities are in alignment with where the storm sewer would have to be repaired and located. The cost estimate that the city developed for that project was between $12,000 and $15,000, and would take approximately 4 weeks to do that construction. We agree that a bulb out in that location would remedy the alignment issue and make that intersection much safer. The issue comes down to, is it funded now, which would be from funds that are not currently identified, or would it be funded at a time in the future when maintenance could be done? So that track is moving along with how do we address this issue at 11th and Rhode Island. Same time, we're in the process of developing our 2016 street maintenance program. And just very recently, that intersection, the stretch of 11th Street from Massachusetts to Connecticut shows up actually as a projected mill and overlay curb and gutter project for 2016. That being said, that's our first draft of that program. Obviously, in August of this year, you will identify the appropriate level of funding for that program. We will come up with a second or third at that time revision to that plan to present to you all in November, December, January timeframe based on the funding authority that you give us in August of this year. So all that being said, if everything falls into place correctly, we would recommend at that time that this bulb out be constructed with the 2016 street maintenance program as part of the mill and overlay program. And we would recommend that we do that option 2, which is the lower cost that gets at the alignment issues, but also shouldn't require extensive utility relocations. The other thing that goes with this item is some elimination of existing parking on the south side of 11th Street, east of Rhode Island. We're recommending that that be put into place immediately to change the site distance, and that when you're coming out of Rhode Island onto 11th Street. So that's kind of a quick summary of the way that staff has reviewed this and the recommendations that the Traffic Safety Commission had put forward. With that, I'll stand for questions.
All right, questions for Mark?
Can you explain in a little more detail the difference between the option 1 and option 2?
Sure. The main difference is where the geometric alignment of the curb would be. Option 1, let me bring that up here, brings, you can see the existing curb line is the dash line. The new curb line would take that bulb out further out with the alignment. And let me reduce, let me do that. Let me hit this. Let's look at option 2 real quick. Unfortunately, for alignment, these maps are turned sideways. So in this particular picture, north is to the right of the screen. You can see it has a much less pronounced curb out into 11th Street, which basically leaves the inlet in its current location. We think that alignment will actually work. And by the way, both of these proposed drawings were provided to us by Mike Myers, who is in this business. So we felt pretty confident with the alignment. We had our engineering staff review both options. Both options are feasible to do. We as a city staff would always look for the lowest cost solution to the situation with the alignment. We feel that option 2 is that lower cost solution. That's why we recommended 2 versus option 1. And then just so you can see what we would do now until we would do the other is what we typically do on curb inlets that are in the middle of the radius on a curb return. We put them in the ground. Back when those were put in, that was the design standard. We no longer put our curb inlets in the middle of the curb returns. We put them on the longer stretch of pavement. It's just how that happened to be aligned. So now we're going to remedy that with a area inlet. That inlet and this curb, basically all the work that we would do here, with the exception of a little bit right here on 11th Street, would remain in place with option 2. So we wouldn't be redoing any of the work that we currently did.
The questions for Mark?
Isn't there a bus stop around there? I can't remember where it's at. Is it before Connecticut or after Connecticut if you were going east on
There
11th?
isn't. I wish Bob Nugent was right here. Catty corner. Okay.
Catty corner from, so which corner? Okay.
Let me bring this part.
Okay.
Lower right and down.
Northeast would be down here. And the reduction or elimination of parking would be in this area here, in the lower left of this picture.
There's not a bus stop in that stretch? Or is it closer to Connecticut?
I'm not familiar with where the bus stops are, Commissioner, I apologize. Let's try to see. 60 feet, I'm not sure if David Woosley here is here or not. 60 feet would be approximately 3 parking places.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, Mark, thank you. Public comment on this item.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. And I appreciate staff's comments. The idea of 2016 funding for this is new to me as of about 5 minutes ago, so I appreciate that. Just a little background and to try to give you a visual image of what this corner is like. I've lived in the neighborhood there for about 22 years and have worked downtown for about the same amount of time, so I drive by there several times a day. And in fact, I'm now a property owner of a project on that corner as well. So I see it a lot. And in fact, I was a victim of the storm inlet there. The way that alignment works with that storm inlet in its current condition, there's a sharp metal piece that sticks out. And the alignment is odd so that if you're not paying a lot of attention, when you hit that corner, it shreds your tire, pulls the sidewall right out of your tire. And I have actually seen 3 other people that through the years watching, you see them getting their tires fixed right adjacent to that. I've spoken with patrolmen who apparently have through the years also done that. So, it's one of those things. It's definitely come around to time to fix the inlet. I think everybody agrees on that. As you know, with the law enforcement center there, all the streets in that area fill up by about 7:30 every morning with vehicles, and along 11th, directly west of this intersection, there are usually large SUVs, police vehicles, and so it's very difficult. The way the alignment works, if you're trying to pull north to turn or go straight from Rhode Island onto 11th, you just can't see at all. You have to essentially, because the alignment issues there, one side of the street sticks out about 10, 12 feet further than the other side of the street, and it's lined with cars on both sides. What you do is you pull up to the intersection. If you're back where the stop sign is, where you're supposed to stop, you can't see anything. So you slowly start inching your way up to the intersection, and then you look left and you still can't see. You look right, you still can't see. Eventually, you get to the point where you're about 12, 13 feet into the intersection when you can finally see. And by that time, chances are good that a bicycle could be coming or what have you. So again, busy place due to all the comings and goings, fairly high traffic counts on 11th Street, high pedestrian zone. It's on a walking path both to Central Middle School and to New York School, Farmers Market downtown. It's an area that's going to be much busier, even more busy than it is now, because we're talking about putting a multi-story building at the corner of that whole area between New Hampshire and Massachusetts on 11th. So we're seeing, this area becoming more important as a pedestrian zone. And I appreciate again what staff is saying about 2016 funding. To me, if you're going to start ripping into the ground and you're looking at it for, you're going to do it twice in 2 years, to me it makes sense to, I don't know if it's really coming in 2016, you hold off. If not, you find a way to fund it now. It doesn't seem like that large an expenditure. I realize, there are a lot of needs out there, both, traffic-wise and so forth. So I would encourage you to look for ways to get this done fairly quickly. And I would also like to point out that, now that we have a complete streets policy, that does say pretty much that when we have these issues, these maintenance and repair issues that come up, we really ought to be looking at them in terms of pedestrian, bicycle safety, and, you know, parking and everything. So my fear is that we'll go in and we'll fix the inlet, and, you know, there'll be other priorities. I mean, things tend to get kicked down the road. I would love to see this done sooner rather than later. I think that's pretty much covers what I'd like to say.
All right. Questions for Mike? Mike, thank you. Other public comment on this item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm Chris Tilden. I live at 1121 Williamsburg Court. As you all know, I also work at the health department and am active member of the Live Well Coalition that was very active in the process of developing the Complete Streets policy that was ultimately adopted by the commission. We very much appreciate the support of the commission and Public Works, transportation planning, all of which have really been committed to seeing that we adopt complete streets in a robust way in this community. So I certainly, I know there are a lot of priorities out there as it relates to traffic safety, traffic calming, many of which remain unfunded at this point. This is yet another example. I think it speaks to the need to really think strongly as we go into the budget cycle about do we have a dedicated line item for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure that would allow us to address some of these priorities. So I, again, appreciate all of the work that's being done. I think this is a project that demands consideration in that it certainly, as Mike said, I think will increase safety for pedestrians and cyclists at that intersection considerably. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Chris. Other public comment on this item?
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Katie Welsh. I'm representing the East Lawrence Neighborhood Association. And we have discussed this as a very dangerous intersection for a couple of years. And I know that Craig and Ann Patterson, who live in that block, went up and down the block and talked to all their neighbors, and everyone concurred that the intersection needs to match up because it's so dangerous. I'm very happy to hear you're also going to restrict parking because it's such a blind corner. And I can't say anything better than Mike and Chris have already said, but if you're going to work on that street, remember there's stone curbs there, and some of them are covered up with asphalt, so be sure and look and save our stone curbs. Thank you.
Thanks, KT. Other public comment? All right, back to the commission.
I just have an easy question for Mark. I was trying to flip between the three options. Does all three of them restrict parking, or just one of them? Because one of them, it's labeled that it restricts parking, but I couldn't tell if the other two do too.
Correct. The restriction would apply regardless of what we do to
All
that
of the options.
intersection.
Thank you.
Quickly.
Yeah, the parking restriction in the recommendation is only east of this intersection. The problem remains on the west, and that's where all those large police SUVs are parked. If the bulb out weren't constructed, and in the period where, you know, if they just fixed the inlet and didn't create the bulb out, they still haven't fixed that problem unless they've reduced the parking. And I can say that I do have support from the police chief to remedy the issues there. He's fully aware that there's a problem, and he said he's, you know, trying to get his guys to not park there. It's kind of hit and miss. They have been trying to not park in that last spot, but not everybody gets the word. So, you know, I just, again, both directions, it would be good to reduce the parking if the bulb out weren't constructed.
All right, what do we want to do with this one?
Well, it sounds like we just need to make sure it's funded in the 2016 street maintenance is what I'm hearing. That as long as that happens, everyone's happy. Is that right, Mike? I'm looking at
We
you
do
when I say
option
that.
3 now and then do the rest of it.
When they do the 2016, yeah.
I like that, you know, we can do number 3 and we won't have to redo it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that fine? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to go with option 3 currently and direct staff to make option 1 a part of the 2016 street improvement maintenance budget.
That would be correct.
Is it option 1?
Option 3 now, option 1 is part of the 2016 street maintenance budget.
I mean, do we want to commit to that option? I mean, obviously, we want to commit to reconstruction, but are we wanting to commit to option 1 versus option 2 at this time? I'm not making a statement. I'm asking. This is a question. I'm asking.
I think that's what I heard. If we're all okay with it, does not matter to me.
Well, maybe I heard it wrong, but staff recommended doing option 3 at this time and then option 2.
Right. That's why I'd asked that question. Is
Yeah.
we'd be going directly against staff.
So not option 1.
Option
Option
2 is
two.
the least of the two. Between option 1 and 2, option 2 is the recommendation.
Okay.
And it still accomplishes the purpose. So,
Yes.
Okay. I misheard. My apologies.
I'd make a motion then that we concur with staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, motion made to concur with staff's, that's a good way to put it. All in favor, aye? Aye, opposed, motion carries 5-0. Thank you all so much. Next item on the consent agenda pulled is item number 13, and Commissioner Amyx, that's you.
Mayor, the reason that I bring this up is that I did receive correspondence from the person that owns the building on the corner of 8th and Massachusetts and talked about having tenants, residential tenants that live upstairs, and just wanted to make sure that everybody got that, and I know if we had any discussion. Really haven't dealt with, the discussion of residential tenants along that block. This is really the first time that really heard anyone come forward with any concern about, folks not being able to sleep at night and stuff, so.
Okay.
Anyway.
Mark?
Just real quickly, we received an event request from the Sandbar to hold the Django birthday bash on July 11th. Would require closing 8th Street down, would involve a concert venue and alcohol. This event, you would be authorizing the city to issue an ordinance to allow alcohol in the public right of way for the event. The event would be, the applicant is here as well, and they'll be able to give you more specifics about the nature of the event and the whys and so forth. But they followed our standard event application process. We reviewed the application internally with our other partners, the Chamber, the Visitors Bureau, DLI. They obtained signatures from adjacent property owners. You have that attachment here. This notice was also sent out to adjacent property owners, notifying them of this action tonight. That's why the email that staff received, and I think the same email that you all saw from the apartment complex, or the apartment owner. So our system did work. They did get the notification that the event would be taking place. So those are our normal procedures when we close or when we have any type of an event. Also tonight, you approved a block party on Mississippi. That's in a neighborhood. That followed the same process. They were required to gain all the adjacent property owners' approval to close that street and to be out in the street and restrict traffic. So I think at this point, I just would be here to answer questions, and the applicants are here as well, if you have questions specific to them.
Okay.
So, I was confused by the language of the memo that went out to staff and as part of our commission packet here, where it says the applicant has obtained written permission from the adjacent property owner to hold this event. So the individual who emailed all of us is not the adjacent property owner then?
Well, and the Sandbar folks are here, but this is the list of the properties. It appears that they got the street level businesses that are on 8th Street. Is that?
Andrew Model with the Sandbar. We actually, we just got the tenants, and we've been doing this for 5 years now. And we never wanted to do something without everyone's permission. And we've never met the gentleman who sent the email. So we've always just gotten a tenant.
So the people that actually live in the properties that he emailed about have given their permission?
We've never, in this process over 5 years, ever gone to the apartments above. One, because I honestly didn't know they existed, because I just, you don't see a clear entrance and stuff like that. So I can honestly say I didn't know there was apartments up there. So.
The same with, aren't there businesses along in there upstairs on the south side of 8th Street also?
I'm not familiar with the apartment structures above any of those businesses, Commissioner. When we do our address notification, we pull, through our GIS database, we pull the actual owners and also the addresses. So if you live in California and own the building, you'll get a notice. If you live in one of those apartments, you'll also get a notice.
Okay, so they were, the actual apartment residents were notified?
My understanding, yes.
And did we receive any correspondence from them one way or another?
No, the only correspondence that staff received was the email from the owner of that complex. Or those, I think there was, he mentioned 3 apartments. That he owns 3 apartments.
Be interesting to see if they're here tonight.
I would add too, if it helps, we did the same application, the Sandbar did the same application earlier this year for an event that they hold annually in August. It's a mirror blueprint of this event. It's their Sandbar annual birthday party. Follow the same process as well. So, I mean, and I looked back through the 2014 records. 8th Street is typically closed between 3 and 5 times a year, whether it be Busker Fest, the relay shot put. So 8th Street seems to be the target that people like to close and have events for whatever reason. There's proximity to the Sandbar or the geographic location downtown. So there's been a number of other, I think Commissioner Amyx, you alluded to that, number of other venues at that same location.
Okay. Anything else?
Are there any tenants here from those properties by chance?
Do we have other public comment on this item?
I have a question, but I don't know who to shoot it at.
Okay, go for it.
I feel like I might have heard maybe in the meeting Monday that Chris Armstrong, the property owner, had talked to someone at the Sandbar. I don't know if that's true or not.
We actually talked about that today. We've owned that building for 25 years. And Dave, we actually talked, we've never once met him. Like I said earlier, we're always wanting to make sure everyone is happy with what we're doing, and if there's any concessions we can make to, keep everyone happy, we always are wanting to do that. And we have never been approached personally, this gentleman. So.
Well, I would certainly encourage you to talk to him about it.
So the timing of the event does not affect like the operations of the bank that's there on the corner, the new bank that's there on the corner?
It's on a Sunday.
Oh,
It's a Saturday. Sorry,
Oh.
July 11th.
Oh, you're right.
I believe. Sorry, yeah, it did. They had no issue when we, for the Great American or the People's, or which one?
Great
Sorry.
American.
Yeah, they never once said anything to us about that when they signed.
Okay.
But, if it was, the event isn't till late at night, so we could easily keep their parking open and just close off half the block if that were the case. And that's just a quick solution that we could. Dave and I are always there through the whole day, and we're always out to do whatever to make sure everyone's happy. So.
Well, I know, that we've gone through that, a discussion about, the change in the parking so that they could have parking. They're on the north side of that bank, so I think you were probably involved with the discussions of that to make sure that happens, so, okay.
Thank you.
As Leslie, as the Vice Mayor said, I think I would definitely talk to my neighbor about this one in the future, so.
Any other public comment? All right, back to the commission.
Well, I think that I'm comfortable with moving ahead with them having their party, just got to talk to your neighbor about these things. This might be something pent up over time, or it could be just this one in particular, we don't know. So I think it's good to talk to the neighbor and try to make him happy, but I'm comfortable moving ahead with approving it.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I guess I'm moving it.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made to approve the event permit for the Django Birthday Party Bash on Saturday, July 11th, made by Vice Mayor Soden, seconded by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor, aye. Oh,
Aye.
and approving ordinance number 9118. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries 5-0. City Manager's report. Hi, Diane.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We have a couple items here on this evening's report. There is going to be an open house on the 19th Street reconstruction project. This is a project that would reconstruct 19th Street from Harper Street east to O'Connell Drive. So this is the ultimate connection there, adjacent to the county fairgrounds property. That would also make the connection into Venture Park. So there's going to be an open house about that project on June 24th, 7 to 8:30 at East Lawrence Rec Center. Also, a number of our planning and development services staff received various certifications for their professions. So we just wanted to point that out to you and congratulate them on that. We really think it's important for staff to continue those kinds of professional certifications. Also, just wanted to note to you that Black Hills Energy did send correspondence to the city related to the Quonset hut project at 8th and Pennsylvania. You may recall they had filed a demolition permit related to that structure, and it was on your agenda for several meetings, and it had been delayed until July. The request was for them, or they have noticed us that they are withdrawing that application, and so it will not be on your July meeting. They have just indicated to us that they're exploring alternative solutions. So we wanted you and the public to be aware.
All right. Any questions for Diane?
Has there been any discussion about how they're planning on mitigating the environmental concerns then? Because my understanding was that the demolition of that building was for the purpose of mitigating environmental concerns. I'm just making sure that in saving the Quonset hut, we didn't also save the environmental problems.
Right, I am not familiar with that. I don't know, Randy, if you are.
I received a very terse email that just said that we are withdrawing to explore alternative solutions. So I don't know exactly what it is they're going to do to try to remediate that.
Terrific.
We should just strike and not pay increased gas bills this winter and say we're exploring alternative solutions. All right, anything else for Diane? All right, Diane, thank you. Now we move on to general public comments. So if you have anything you wish to discuss with the commission that does not have anything to do with what is on our regular agenda, we'd ask that you come forward. Lots of folks want to speak here tonight, so please try to keep your comments limited. We don't have a shot clock, but if you do start to ramble on, I will ask you to wrap up your comments because we have got a lot of folks here to speak tonight. So, hi.
Hi, my name is Lisa Szynski. Brenda's my co-leader of the Peterson Road Dog Park Group. And our group, we are a group of dog owners that are advocating a large dog park, fenced-in dog park in Lawrence. With the addition of a fenced-in dog park to our community, I believe we have a stronger dog community, a place where we can sit and be safe within the perimeters and have less incidents of runaways in our dog park. A fenced-in area would allow for better community policing of less social dogs and keeping the area clean and safe. The push for a fenced-in dog park has been proposed in the past. We had 375 signatures on a petition in May 2016. You'll see in this packet that we've put together the newspaper articles from 2012 and 2013. So 375 signatures on the petition in May of 2012, and I know this proposal will continue in our community until we have a fenced-in dog park. I also would like to introduce myself. Again, my name is Lisa Szynski. I was asked to be the voice of the Peterson Dog Park Group because of my past background. I run the Facebook page Friends of Mutt Run. I organize cleanup days with Mutt Run and the large dog park out near Clinton Lake. Also, I spent time in Wisconsin where I was able to get 2 dog parks established within 2 separate budget plans, one within the county and one within the village of Mount Horeb. So I'm very proud to do that, and I'm very proud to stand here and ask you to consider having a fenced-in dog park in Lawrence. So part of our proposal, we have already met with Parks and Rec Department twice. They've surveyed some land within the Lawrence community. The 2 best land sites that we've found are on Peterson Road. There's 2 separate land sites you'll also see in the packet that's provided. There's estimated costs that have been provided to us by the city, the Parks and Rec Department. Right now, we realize that funding is really limited. So at this time, we're not looking for funding from the city. However, what we would like to see is a commitment from the city that as we want to raise money, we want to try to help the funds for this project. We just want the commitment that either side of Peterson Road become a fenced-in dog park. We want to know that we're raising money for something that's going to be there for us once the funds are available to us. So right now, we're not asking for money from the city, but we do want to make sure that we reconvene in a year to see where our funds are, and also in the future, we would like you to consider helping fund this through dog licensing within Lawrence. I know that's a big step for Lawrence, but 2 other almost every city around, main cities around here. Topeka has dog licensing, Manhattan has dog licensing. You'll see the fees for dog licensing range from $6 up to $20, depending if your dog's spayed or neutered. We did a pet ownership calculator for the city of Lawrence, and you'll also see that in your packet. It looks like the estimated pet population in Lawrence is 19,000 pets. That would be an estimate if we charge $10 for licensing of $19,000 per year. Or sorry, $190,000 per year. Once the park is established, we just think these funds could be used in other ways besides maintaining the park. It can be used for animal control, which I hear we don't have enough staff for that in our community. I also know that the Humane Society needs funding, and this would be a great way in the future to provide those funds. Again, we're not asking for it at this time, but we want you to consider it in the future. Some of the ways you'll see on the bullet points 2 through 5 are ways that we can now start fundraising to prepare for in a year when we come back and hopefully have funds raised to come to you and say, okay, now's the time where we need the land at Peterson Road. There's also, we talked to the Parks and Rec Department, and they were concerned about administration fees for dog licensing, and we also found a website that provides the administration work at $50 to $500 per year. When the revenue is somewhere around $190,000, that amount just seems so little compared to what we could make in revenue from dog licensing. In closing, again, I'm just looking for a commitment from the city that once we do raise the funds, that we would be provided land at one of the Peterson Road sites. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Other public comments?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm up here talking about that RS5 zoning. And I want to tell you, I talked to the property owners at 439, which is on the east side of this, whatever you want to call it, house. Apparently the codes and regulations on an RS5 zoning are less than what's on RS7 zoning, bigger lots. because this house is, it's less than 25 feet wide. This house is 15 feet wide and about 30 feet tall. And then it's got a garage in the back. They built a pole barn on the back of it and then poured a concrete floor. Now, there is no, it's built right on the property line, the garage is. And then on the west side, it's got a little porch on the garage. And this garage extends all the way to the alley. So it has no side yards and has the front yard about half of this, what's in front of us right here. And the property owner to the east, Mr. Sanders, and it's a rental property, he has never had water run under his house. Now, the water is running under his house, the runoff is. The alley is higher than the property that the house is built on. The sidewalk is higher than the property is built on. So what I want to know is how come we're so lax on this small lot zoning, 7,000 square feet, which is what RS7, which is North Lawrence, is what we've always strived for, property that it can take care of its own stormwater. Now, we're waiting on a $4.5 million pump here that we haven't got yet. So are we trying, and this pump is just big enough to take care of existing properties now. Now, true, the pump is on the north side of the railroad tracks, but it goes along North 6th Street over to the river, which will have inlets going to it. So are we trying to overdo the stormwater, override this pump, the capacity of it right off the bat? Because initially, back in 95, 93, 97, when we had all these homes built in the last 15, 20 years, over 150 homes, we didn't have a stormwater problem. But building those homes up on mounds and the runoff going on, and the city told us, said, oh, you know, we'll dig the ditches deeper and wider. Well, all that did was create a bunch of ponds for mosquitoes to breed in. And so now we've been waiting on a pump for 20 years. And then now we're building houses on 25-foot lots. And I would encourage you, all of you, to go over there and drive past that house. House is 437 Elm. That'll be on the north side of the street in the middle of the block. You can't miss it. Tallest building there. And then drive down the alley. The garage sits right on the alley. The east side of the garage sits right on the property line. And so there's nothing there to help with the stormwater runoff. And the person to the east, Mr. Sanders, his rental property, he's been talking to his attorney to see what he can do about this stormwater runoff. And it's that lot, that little 25-foot lot between Mr. Shepherd's house on the west side, and that's a small lot too, but he built the house appropriately and put a carport in the back. And so this house that is built there at 437, it has sucked up all the lot. There's no room for stormwater runoff except on your neighbor's property. So I would really like the North Lawrence Improvement Association, we would like to study this RS5 zoning in North Lawrence because it's not working for North Lawrence. It never will work for North Lawrence. We have a stormwater problem over there, and yet when we start to see light at the end of the tunnel, lo and behold, the city lets developers build on smaller and smaller lots. So, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ted.
Can I ask Ted a question?
Sure.
Ted, you really don't want to study that, do you? Don't you want to initiate or at least have consideration of initiation of rezoning of those properties?
That's correct. Yeah, that's what we'd like to do. Yeah. It's just not working in North Lawrence. That might be appropriate for other parts of the city. But, you know, North Lawrence, we live in a bowl. We got a levee on the north side. We got a levee on the south side. And all the water has to be pumped out. And right now, the water ain't getting pumped out. And the pump that's going to be in there right now takes care of the water on the north side of the tracks. So it's kind of like a deal. Well, you know, they're going to get a big pump over here. It was like when they put the North 2nd Street pump in. Developers thought, oh, wow, they're taking the water out of North Lawrence, so let's start building. That was in 1995, 2 years after the flood on North 2nd Street. After that, that's when the developers started building homes in North Lawrence, and a result of that, we had over 150 homes built in that period of time, and we have the stormwater problems today. So now, I don't know, what's it been, 6, 7, 8 years ago when they started this RS5 zoning? We didn't want it in North Lawrence, but we got it. Now we'd like to have it removed out of North Lawrence. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ted. Other public comments?
You said the address was 437?
Hi.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to let you know that we are here with the dog park. We have several people in attendance tonight, so we just want to thank you for your time and your consideration for our proposal.
Thank you. Could we have your name for the record, please?
Brenda Jardin.
All right, Brenda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Other public comments? Last call for general public comment. Okay.
Hi, my name is Bert Gruber, Mayor and Commissioner. We live about half mile from the place where they'd like to have the dog park. And I need to tell you that that land's not being used. Anytime I do see that land used, it's usually a dog and an owner playing Frisbee. You cut the grass, but no one uses it. It would be a perfect place for a dog park. I live right off of Peterson, and you can't go down any time down that street and not see someone walking their dog. It is very needed in that area. I take both my dogs up to the dog park up by Clinton Lake at least once a week. It's a great place. I love taking my dogs there, having the dogs run through all the grass, coming back with the mud. It'd be nice just to take them and have another option of them just not taking all the burrs, the ticks, everything else that comes with having them run through all the grass and the woods up there. It'd just be great to even have a place just for the dogs, just to have one dog that has agility. It's just, you know, just even having a couple toys, just a little land area for these dogs just to really run and play. My dogs love to socialize with other dogs. I've picked up several stray dogs off the road, off of Iowa Street, off of Peterson, off of Princeton. About every couple months I come across a dog that's running around where I have to find owners, call them up, say, I have your dog. So I just like to really that it be something that's desperately needed, and just another place to take the dogs. We are the most, I have never seen so many dogs in a city like Lawrence does. And that's, you can't go anywhere without seeing someone walk their dog today. So I just like to add to that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gruber. Other public comment? Last call for general public comment. Chad, are you getting up? Okay. I was like, today's the day. I'm excited. All right. We will move on with our regular agenda. Please make sure your cell phones are silenced. The first item on the regular agenda is to consider a public hearing regarding a benefit district for the intersection improvements at 6th Street and Champion Lane, and to adopt Resolution 7123, establishing the benefit district and authorizing the improvements. Hi, Chuck.
Good evening. Tonight for the Commission's consideration is, let me look here, Resolution 7123, setting out the findings and authorizing the improvements for the benefit district for 6th and Champion. The improvements are the signalization of that intersection with the continued development of the commercial area to the north, and with the traffic to the south, the continued success of the Dillon's and those areas there. The traffic there has just gotten to a point where a traffic signal is warranted. We do have $250,000 coming from the turnback agreement that we had with KDOT to put towards that project. The project estimate is $400,000, so that leaves $150,000 to split through the benefit district. The method of assessment, what we've proposed is 50% to the north, 50% to the south, and then splitting it up by square footage. It's 100% paid for by either the KDOT turnback funds or the benefit district, so there's no separate city funds being put into this. The assessment period is 10 years. The commission's action tonight would be to, all the property owners have been notified of the public hearing, and it was published as well. And I did have a few inquiries from, I think, the property developers from the Dillon site. Theodore Lawrence contacted me. I think that was about it, just two. Just general questions, but tonight's the public hearing, so we can discuss any questions. But your action tonight would be to open the public hearing, pending the public, pending any discussion that the commission wants to have, close the public hearing, and then approve resolution number 7123.
Okay, question for Chuck? Yes, sir.
On lot 25, Chuck, the red line that's dividing that parcel,
Yes.
does that red line go through, what is that, Dillon's?
I talked with Mr. Fritzl on that, and he was going to check with the county appraiser's office, register of deed, to see if that's correct. And that's what the property description shows, but he may have leased several feet over to Dillon's, but he may not have gotten it replatted. So that's, we have to go by the property lines, even though it may be leased differently. He does have the option, if at some times he wants to come back in and replat and get that line corrected. We're always making adjustments to special assessments, because people will come in, developers will come in, owners will come in, and they'll have adjusted property lines and lot lines after the benefit district has been done. So those adjustments can be made, and things will be reassessed and respread.
You know, you and I did have conversation this morning, and one of the things that I noticed as I read through this late last week was the property on the north has about 1,600,000 square feet of property, and the property to the south has, what, 1,000,001, 1,000,002, something like that. It's about 500,000 square feet different. And we assess it 50% to the north, 50% to the south, and then it's divided up square footage that way.
Right.
Isn't there a, I don't know if it's considerable or not, price difference on the properties on the south? Aren't they paying more than the properties
They're
on the
both
north?
paying $75,000, basically split, and it's based on square footage. So per square foot, if there's less square footage on the south, then per square foot, that cost is more.
Okay. I don't know, somehow that doesn't seem right, but.
Commissioner Amyx, I looked back over several, I didn't have a lot of time, but on George Williams Way from, I've written it down here, from 6th to Overland, we did east and west, because it wasn't north and south, we did east and west. The east side was 1.8 million square feet, 1.850. The west side was 5.3 million square feet. We've also done Stone Ridge Drive was done east and west. They were the Collister tract, and then I think Stoltz owned a tract. They were both 40-acre tracts, so it was equal. Overland Drive, we did north and south. That one just happened to come out equal as well. But then, let me show you this one that I found. We did a benefit district at 6th and Congressional, and we did 25% each corner. But you can see, I can zoom in a little bit so you can see the square footages. I mean, none of the corners are necessarily the same, but they each received a quarter benefit. And that's how, kind of how the bond council is looking at it as well. We're splitting it by the front footage along 6th Street, which would be 50 foot south, 50 foot north, and then we're dividing that up square footage wise thereafter. So can be done the other way. It can be done all equal, all square footage if the commission would like. Tonight, what the commission has the option to do, because we've already published the notice of public hearing, you can reduce the benefit district size if you want. And then what would happen is we'd have to just basically respread all the costs to the other lot. And that's about it. If we want to do something else, which can be done, if you want to change the method of assessment to square footage across the whole thing, we just have to start the process over. And all that amounts to is another notice of publication and just a public hearing. So it's not a big deal if that's the commission's desire.
Just so, and I don't know this, how much is the cost per square foot on the north side versus the south side?
You're asking me a tough one. What I did was I figured on that one tract you asked me, the difference between everything being done on a square footage basis in north and south amounted to about 26 cents per month per unit is what I figured out for that. But now I got to use my glasses because my little thing is a little tiny. Cost per square foot. Is that a calculator, David?
How many thousand square feet is what, 1,000,001? Oh my God.
Oh, no, you got a little bit like 15.
So it amounts to, on the north side, Commissioner, about 5 cents a square foot, and on the south side, about 7 cents a square foot. So it's about 2 cents a square foot difference. Like 4.7 and 6.8.
And the housing on both sides of the street, the housing to the south, I can't remember the name of those apartments, is it Westgate or something?
Westgate, mm-hmm.
Okay, and you have those, and then you have the retirement area that's
Right.
up on the north, they're gonna be paying the same amount. This, this kind of gets back at some of the things I was talking about on housing costs, every time we do this, you just add to it, so. Okay.
The $250,000, that was specifically for signalization of this corner, so if we didn't do it, we wouldn't get it.
Say that again.
The $250,000 from the state was specifically for the signalization of this corner, so if we didn't do it, we wouldn't get that money.
Correct. Yeah, we've got an agreement with the Kansas Department of Transportation with 4 projects, 6 in Iowa, 23rd in Iowa, signalization at 6 in George Williams, and signalization at 6 in Champion.
Wasn't this a condition of the development plan on the north side to have Champion, 6th and Champion signalized? Wasn't there a condition, if I remember?
They signed a agreement not to protest if the benefit district was established. They did 100% pay for the left turn lane, or the right turn lane that went into the subdivision, into the development. That was done out of benefit district as well.
Was that done by benefit district? What did the TDD pay for there?
TDD, sorry, TDD.
That's what I thought, that extra
Yes.
sales tax went to that. So.
Yes.
Okay. Well, my whole thing is that when I look at this and just the way it's set up, it seemed to me that, my brain just says that the benefit district ought to be 1 unit in this particular case, and that the assessment ought to be an equal amount per square foot. And that's just me.
Seems reasonable.
I might just mention, and if we want to go that way, that's fine, because then, I don't know if they were here or not, but they were concerned about costs. It will increase the cost for everybody else, especially on the north side. So their costs will go up.
And how much is their cost going to go up?
Well, it depends on the tract.
6 cents
A penny a foot?
Yeah, probably.
It's not huge, but if you're looking like, I'll just use Theodore Lawrence as an example. Theirs will go up about $2,000.
$2,000?
About $2,000. And the apartments that you talked about will come down about $2,000. But so will the assessments to the Dillon's tract and everything else, because the south side is, all of the ones on the south side will be reduced, and all the ones on the north side will go up. From what we have proposed, hasn't been established yet.
What's the perimeter of the TDD on that map?
The TDD, I believe, is the Bauer Farm.
Yes, just Bauer, right?
So it just goes to Champion, or does it go past that?
Let me go,
It's the
no,
whole
it's-
side, I think, Vice Mayor.
It would be, yeah, just over here.
Plus the stuff on the side.
Right.
It was, I'd have to
Well,
look
the
it up.
TDD is up there.
And the TDD isn't paying for it.
No.
Why is that?
The transportation, the way the agreement was set up, there were certain improvements that were identified that could be paid for. But it was also known that all the improvements, the TDD wouldn't cover all the improvements. So you can do benefit district, you can do transportation development district, and not that they've received all their money yet, but the projects that they are getting reimbursed for will use up all the TDD money over the period of time in the agreement. So this one's going to be funded by a separate instrument, which the agreement did refer to, other instruments that could be used to fund projects, which is benefit district.
The Bauer Farm TDD included all of the commercial areas. It did not
Okay.
include the residential.
Didn't include this area then,
Correct.
or this area.
Well, we
Is-
can't go back and
is-
change the TDD.
Is the large tract to the west of Meadowlark, is that residential? Still considered residential? Yeah, it's still got,
considered
still has the
residential.
zoning. Okay. Well, one of the things that I might suggest that we do in this thing, because I talked to Chuck kind of late in the day, I guess, is we have the opportunity to open the public hearing and then continue the public hearing until we can get answers to additional questions we want. I want to know, like, what that change in what the price per square foot would be by doing it, taking into consideration both sides of the road. We have that option to do that, and without taking an action tonight or having to have you start the process over. And give the opportunity for the owner on the south to clean up that area where that red line is, so it doesn't go through that building or wherever it's at.
Yeah, I don't know how long that process may take, if that's a rezoning issue.
Yeah, well,
Or
it just
replat.
doesn't, okay, well, whatever that may be, it just doesn't look right either, having a line going through a building, but anyway, that's my thoughts on this thing, so, as one option, sir.
Any questions for Chuck?
One final comment I might make, Commissioners, is that the natural growth Sprouts is going to be opening soon. It's pretty congested there now. The reason why, not that the signal is going to take 6 to 9 months to get installed, but it is needed. The traffic signal is needed before we have too many accidents out there. I don't know that we've got a problem at this point, but it continues to generate more and more traffic, and we're going to need that sooner rather than later. So we're probably looking at it next spring already. but we don't want this process. Like Commissioner Amyx mentioned, if we want to wait until they adjust that red line, get it out from the middle of the building, that may be a few month process. That may not be him calling up the county appraiser. So,
And, you know, and maybe that's something that we can't deal with, but it just seems to me, in fairness to, you know, this whole area, that the price ought to be the same both sides of the road. That's just me talking.
Yeah, I'm less concerned about the location of that line and more concerned about the price they're paying.
Yeah.
I mean, we could figure that out in 1 week, right? I mean, that's just a matter of, yeah, it's just a matter of basic math.
yeah. No, the spreadsheet can be adjusted easily.
Yeah.
But didn't you say that if we do anything different as far as assessment, it has to start the process over
Right.
again?
And we can do that. I mean, it's just basically, it's a, we'll bring back a resolution establishing the public hearing date, and a couple weeks later, we'll have another public hearing.
If we're looking at 9 months for a traffic light anyway, I don't see bumping it 2 weeks as being a huge life-changing event.
Do we still want to have the public hearing? Or since we're going to start the process over, it kind of nullifies? Okay, so with that, I would entertain a motion to defer this item for 2 weeks with the direction given to staff.
Okay. You want the direction? The direction being that they are going to come up with what that assessment will be. I do like the idea. Do we have the opportunity to defer this? And does that start the process?
You can continue the public hearing.
Mayor, I would suggest that we open the public hearing,
Okay.
that we continue it to a new date and time, and that the reason that we do that is if for some reason that in the end, after Chuck presents us that information, that we believe that it's fair, we have that opportunity to consider that.
Okay.
And if not, we can always start the process over.
You all good with that? Matt? Okay.
Let's do it.
All right, motion to open the public hearing.
Move.
Second.
Motion made to open the public hearing by Commissioners Amyx, seconded by Herbert. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Public hearing is now open. Okay, I entertain a
Mayor, I'd
motion.
make a motion to continue the public hearing for 1 week. Is that fair?
Is that enough time?
Is that enough
Probably
time?
need
So
some
we
more
get a
time.
public notice out, we probably need 2, right, for public?
July 7th.
No, we're still,
Yeah,
we're
probably
still
3
under,
weeks.
we're still under this assessment.
Yeah, you just want you want the other assessment, so you can,
Right.
so you can compare them.
Right.
Basically. Yeah, I've got that. I can have that up tomorrow. So, the only other thing is noticing the property owners, and we'll get notices out. I mean, there's only 33.
Right, but here's the case. If the commission were to decide after looking at what the assessment is for property and what the new assessment will be, decide that it's not worth that, you know, we've already done the original notification
Yes.
process. We don't,
Right.
and if we want to start over, we'll start over, so, okay?
Right. So then next week, you could go ahead and approve ordinance 7123, and we could keep going.
Okay.
So continue the item, defer for a week.
Continue the public hearing for 1 week.
Right.
And you'll provide the additional information on what the assessment on one rate all the way around, what it would be.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Motion made?
Moved.
No, he made it.
Second.
All right, motion made, seconded to continue public hearing for 1 week by Commissioner Amyx, seconded by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to discuss construction traffic related to the development of the Langston Heights subdivision.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Dave Cronin, City Engineer, Public Works Department. I'll start by kind of introducing the topic and some of the history involved with the Langston Heights subdivision. I know there's a lot of folks that probably want to comment tonight, and the development group is here as well to comment. So when the Langston Heights subdivision was being planned a couple of years ago, I think back in 2013. It was approved with the condition that a temporary construction road would be constructed from Bob Billings Parkway to the development area of Langston Heights to construct the infrastructure. And that work was undertaken last year in 2014 from approximately April to October, as far as putting in the infrastructure of the street, storm sewer, water line, etc. One of the things that I would note with the temporary construction road, it wasn't really clearly defined between staff and the group, the development, that what the standards would be for the road, the surfacing, and the maintenance. When they constructed the infrastructure last year, they did a lot of grading on the site adjacent to Bob Billings Parkway to put in a dirt road path that enabled folks to be able to travel from Bob Billings to build the streets. There was some times during construction last year where that road was not usable due to weather conditions or the construction going on with the KDOT Bob Billings interchange project. Last fall, they constructed the concrete approach for the future street, which is Langston Way, which will eventually serve that Langston Heights development when that street is constructed. So then going forward into this year, or last fall and into this spring, as some of the individual homes have started to become constructed. The understanding was that the large, heavy construction traffic, concrete trucks, dump trucks, et cetera, would still use that temporary construction road while they were constructing those homes. This spring we've had a lot of wet weather. It's been difficult to maintain a road like that with heavy construction traffic and trucks, and so there's been a little bit of difficulty using that. I think it was everyone's understanding that if it was able to be used, it should be used, and for construction and heavy trucks especially. There's a lot of work going on over there, the KDOT project, all the home construction. We got the Bob Billings projects going on, so there's a lot of trucks using all the streets in the area, and so anyway, we've had some complaints here this spring with neighbors concerned about heavy trucks using the residential streets to serve the Langston Heights construction. When they brought that to our attention in April, we discussed that with the development group. They worked to get a contractor to see if they could regrade the road, improve it, put up some temporary signage to divert the heavy construction traffic off of the city streets. It's been a work in progress, and like I said, the wet weather hasn't helped things. They've been trying to make sure that road is maintainable, and so that's kind of a little bit of the background. And then more recently, in the last couple of weeks, as we've been getting further complaints, we've discussed the issue with the contractors and development group, and they have been responsive as far as continuing to make improvements to the temporary construction road. And I've got here an aerial image that kind of shows the area and some of the work that's going on. Let's see if I can zoom this in a little bit. So this is Bob Billings Parkway. You kind of look that way, is looking south. The Langston Heights residential development's over here. You can kind of, this picture is from last week, or a week and a half ago. The Langston Way is the future street that will come off Bob Billings. Here's the KDOT interchange project. The street's kind of been rough graded, and that's the Langston Way, which will come back over and tie in to the existing street there. So that's the expectation that that staff believes that heavy construction traffic and concrete trucks, dump trucks should use that road, you know, as feasible. You know, when you get a lot of rain, it takes time to dry out and regrade it, and so there could be periods of time where it's unusable. But I know I was out there today and they were regrading it again, putting some additional rock down, and I drove down it, and so a lot of it is also on, you know, informing all the contractors, and there's all sorts of people out there, carpenters and plumbers and landscaping and on and on and on. There's a lot of folks out there working. So, you know, a lot of it's the education aspect, and I know that, that, you know, from what we've heard, the development group has passed that on to the contractors to make sure that, you know, that when feasible, that they should be coming off of Bob Billings Parkway and not driving through the neighborhood. So with that, I'll probably just turn it over to Tim Herndon, and he was going to make some comments also on kind of some of the response that they've have done since we've gotten the complaint. So.
I think I can work with them well. Let's try that approach. Thanks. Hi, Commissioners. Tim Herndon, landscape architect, urban planner, development consultant, and agent for Langston Heights Development, LLC. We appreciate this process, and we thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. I noticed we do have a few neighbors present tonight. Also present are Doug Ramey and Bob Santee with Langston Heights Development. Also another corporate entity that's involved is Santee Construction, and that's Bob and his two business partners, Trent and Chase Santee. We also have some of the home builders that are working in this neighborhood here, some others that may or may not choose to speak. The main point that I'd like to make moving forward is that Langston Heights is sympathetic with the neighbors' concerns. You know, we wish to help in any way we can within reason and in ways that we can reasonably be expected to control. You know, a big factor in this matter, particularly this year, has been the weather, and it's been inordinately wet, and any major project that's going on in Lawrence has felt the effects of that and the delays associated with that. And I want to say forthrightly that we understand that the weather has created delays in the construction of the temporary road, and I think to some it seemed like nothing was getting done at times. And without getting into details associated with the minutia of wet temporary construction roads and how long it takes them to dry, and when you have to get in and dig out some of the mud and replace it with dry soil or fill it with gravel, and all those issues, they all come into play. Another thing that Mr. Cronin touched upon that I want to emphasize is that, and I think this exhibit that he referred to is a pretty good starting point, is that Langston Heights here is part of a colossal development area. And the SLT KDOT interchange with Bob Billings Parkway is, you know, I can't even begin to describe in, you know, comprehensible terms what certain days are like out there. But you know, one day there will be a barrier up on Bob Billings Parkway for the installation of a water line, and a couple of weeks later a turn lane is being installed, and a couple of weeks later there's heavy earthwork taking place, and then a couple of weeks later it's rained for a week. A lot of potential interruptions continuing to impact the project. But I think to a greater extent, we are dealing with managing expectations and a public perception that arose from the approval of this project in early to mid 2013. And going back and reviewing the minutes, I mean, it was pretty clear at the end that, and this was a motion by the mayor at the time, who said, okay, the two conditions. One is build a construction road with a sign indicating where it is, and then file covenants. And we did those things. But under the umbrella of varied expectations, we have some people that believe that it was as simple as installing a construction road and a sign. Others have articulated their belief that that this road that we're talking about is to be installed for the building of Langston Heights streets, sewers, water lines, etc. itself. And when that evolution was done, then the home builders, the subsequent home builders, would use the public streets. Another expectation that appears to be afoot is that some neighbors believe that that roadway was to be installed throughout the duration of home construction at Langston Heights. That was not our understanding. Other neighbors have their perception apparently is that that temporary roadway was there for all Langston Heights traffic, whether it's home builder related or otherwise. But simultaneously, while these expectations have evolved and, you know, to some degree been nurtured over time, as varied as they are, you know, we've had correspondence coming from Public Works, certainly from our side of the project, that indicate that that temporary roadway was there for the construction of Langston Heights streets, sewers, and water lines, and that alone. We've had, and like I said, I mean, that was expectations and the image that was shared by Public Works and other city staff. So there is some conflict and expectation. I want to share with you a larger picture that'll help, I think, everyone understand what Langston Heights, based on our history, our experience, particularly in this area, is, and what we believe it should be. Now, this image I'm showing you is of Langston Heights, right there. This is the interchange project. This is Langston Hughes Elementary School. This is Diamond Head neighborhood, through which the majority of traffic travels now. This is George Williams Way, where my pencil is. And now we're going east a full mile to Wakarusa Drive. This is Bob Billings Parkway here, and that's 6th Street to the north. My point of showing you this image is that in 1992, significant residential development began at Herbert and Wakarusa Drive, and has progressed phase by phase, neighborhood by neighborhood, westward, like I said, for about 20 years. This is an area right down here that is initiating construction now. That's Fox Chase South. But this is essentially the Fox Chase neighborhood, the Summerfield neighborhood, the Congressional neighborhood. And as progression has taken place over the years, every subsequent phase of construction, every subsequent neighborhood impacts the preceding neighborhood with contractor traffic and home builder traffic and concrete trucks and dump trucks and earth movers and everything else. And in this literal square mile, that's 640 acres, there has been no temporary construction road,
much less one that's a half-mile long, like Langston Heights agreed to install. That was a privilege that came to us and also to the neighborhood, because it just so happens that this development group did gain access to and control of the property of the south. So when neighbors expressed their concerns that traffic would be a challenge, we said, okay, we've got this property and we'll extend this roadway to the south. It was included in the minutes in the proceedings, motion and approved. The exact surface, the exact nature of the roadway construction itself, those things, the duration, specifically what kind of traffic, was not an item of discussion. You know, in hindsight, I wish it would have been. So enough about that. The last thing I want to share with you is what Langston Heights feels like we're in a position to do. And this is a response I'm going to briefly read from the staff recommendations that were forwarded to you as part of this agenda item. And I'm going to, like I said, make this brief and then I'll be done. Staff believes that the developer should complete the temporary construction road on the permanent Langston Way alignment as soon as practically possible, but by June 19th at the latest. We have built the road. I drove it last Friday. I drove it again Saturday. I drove it twice today. The road is up and operable. If we get gully washers like we've been having or extended periods of rain, there will be interruptions as a result of the compromised roadway surface. Other things that can interrupt that is the KDOT activity, SLT activity, other projects. Bear in mind, Bob Billings Parkway is right now under construction from Wakarusa Drive to Legends. There's about to be a turn lane installed directly in front of Corpus Christi Church. There's about to be geometric improvements and a signal installed at George Williams Way and Bob Billings Parkway. And I'm sure that it's right about now that KDOT's starting to sweat the load a little bit about making their fall/winter deadline for opening the interchange. So there's going to be a lot of activity going on in this area that's outside of our realm of control. And pretty much, I would venture to say, some days outside of anybody's realm of control. But we are in agreement with building the road. Staff suggested that the new road should be maintained in a rut-free way so that the majority of traffic is able to use it. We agree to that to the extent that we can. Because on any given day, if it rains and a couple of gigantic trucks run down that thing, your ruts are there. And it might be a few days before they're gone. So, you know, we'll police that and maintain that as best as we can. Staff has asked that we encourage all vehicles, or that we, I'll read it verbatim. Staff suggests that this would accommodate large trucks and smaller contractor trucks as the Langston Heights subdivision builds out, but not passenger vehicles typical of laborers needing to reach the house sites. I would maintain to you that Langston Heights development will encourage all vehicles larger than pickup trucks and vans to use the temporary construction road. It's important to point out that we have a neighborhood packed with pickup truck owners. And we have surrounding neighborhoods that on any given day the roads are filled with vehicles like that. So we feel like we can justifiably direct larger vehicles to use the temporary construction road. We have posted signs, and we agree to maintain the signs. And then finally, we will reinitiate the contract that we had in April with all of the home builders and personally inform them that the road is operable and encourage them to use them and observe the signage that we've erected. And then finally, we were asked to implement that by June 19th. And these things are in the ground today. So with that, I'm available to answer other questions, and I'm more than happy to. And that's all I have for now. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tim. Any questions? The commission.
Mayor.
Yes, sir.
So I'm understanding this correctly, Tim, that the temporary construction road is complete as it sits today, correct?
That is correct.
So assuming we pass the action, there's actually no change in action.
Other than our commitment to continue to educate the builders that are working in the area. So I would say yes to your question.
All right.
Any questions for Tim? All right, thank you. Public comment on this item?
Maybe. My name is Herbert. I live in the Diamond Head neighborhood, and I am joined with a number of my neighbors here as well. Would counteract a little bit some of the statements that have been made. Just a brief review. There were a lot of issues that the public had with the rezoning that was approved back in 2013, and as a condition of that was the construction road. So Mr. Herndon talking about other neighborhoods having this construction pass through is quite frankly irrelevant. Because that was a condition that was tied to the zoning that was then approved. So the question really is, what defines the construction traffic, and is it or is it not still going through the neighborhood? Looking back at some of the issues that that we raised 2 years ago, the zoning obviously was the big one for us. It passed and was approved with conditions. We had serious concerns about road deterioration that were not in very good shape at the time. They are much, much worse now. Safety, we are a very family-heavy neighborhood. Safety was a big concern. It continues to be so. And of course, traffic loads, and those have increased substantially. The developers raised the question about what sort of traffic should be on the construction road. And they talk about infrastructure traffic. The word infrastructure has never been used in a public setting until tonight. And in fact, starting with a memo from the developers back in December of 2012, they actually do a little bit to define exactly what sort of traffic should be off the roads and what we should be looking at. This was from the Planning Commission meeting minutes, which are still available on the web, discussing in particular the purchase of the lease from Alvamar to install the construction road. Says this agreement, once signed by both parties, would allow that construction traffic to pass entirely across the ground presently owned by Alvamar. With such access easement in place, dump trucks, excavators, and the like could pass from Bob Billings Parkway to the subject property without traveling on city streets, namely those in the Diamond Head subdivision. This document really formed the basis for what the expectations from the public were on this issue. This document then led to the condition that was passed by the Planning Commission and ultimately passed by the City Commission. Just looking back at some other minutes to make sure that we didn't miss anything and there wasn't some other definition. There was a brief discussion from Mr. McCullough in the February 2013 City Commission meeting that was talking about enforcement. He started talking about enforcement of the covenants and discussing that would be done through private means, but also then led us into the discussion of the construction road. And he was setting our expectation that that was going to be an issue because they weren't going to have somebody out there day after day monitoring what trucks went through the area. And specifically what he says, if there's a road for heavy construction and the construction of those roads and things, we're more apt to see that. Talking specifically about, at the time, there were a number of lots in the Diamond Head division that were, I've lost the visual here, that were under construction. So it was going to be hard to tell what trucks were coming to build homes in Diamond Head and what trucks were coming to build homes in Langston Heights. As we stand today, the homes in Diamond Head are all built. All of the trucks going through the neighborhood are going to build Langston Heights. The mayor himself, when calling for the motion, put very simply, construction road, we can make that a condition? Absolutely, we can tie that to the plat. Mr. Shum said we need a construction road. It was moved and approved, and Mr. Shum said that's a construction road with the sign and the covenants. Again, no mention of infrastructure, no mention of using the construction road when convenient, no mention of using the construction road when the weather was permissible, no mention of using the construction road when KDOT and other construction allowed. It was, there's a construction road. And again, that is what set our expectations. So we feel that there was no implementation in terms of infrastructure only for the construction road. But let's assume for a second that there was. Again, going back to the applicant's own memo, they define the traffic that would be removed from the Diamond Head neighborhood as dump trucks, excavators, and the like. And since this was added to the agenda, we have had some of our neighbors out in the neighborhood snapping pictures to show you guys exactly what type of traffic is going down our streets multiple times an hour, every day of the week, for weeks on end. And what we find are dump trucks, excavators, and the like. We've got drywall trucks. We have lumber trucks. We have tractor trailers. We have concrete trucks. We have concrete form trucks. We have concrete cranes. I'm almost there. We have water trucks. We have dumpster trucks. We have city trucks. We have forklifts. We have various trailers, and the kicker, we have oversized loads. These can't go down the street without an escort and a flashing light, but they're coming through our neighborhood. Surely this is the exact kind of traffic that we mentioned. The problem is, too, that it's not just pass-through traffic. These vehicles are camping and parking in the actual Diamond Head neighborhood. And their effect on our roads has been severe. 2 years ago, we thought this was going to be an issue because our roads were kind of hazy. Now they're in absolute terrible shape. We have potholes. We have cracks, which the city recognized because in April they came out and tried to fill them. But those cracks are getting huge and getting worse. And again, there's a correlation between this daily, hourly, minutely heavy traffic coming through our roads and the condition of our streets. Safety, too, is a concern. Speeding, wide cornering, and inattentive drivers in a neighborhood, especially during the summer where children are home, playing and riding their bikes. A lot of the traffic that we have going through is quite frankly dangerous. Mr. Herndon mentioned that the road was open for business as of Friday. Traffic was still running all day Monday, all day today. In fact, this was a picture taken earlier this morning. Now, what you'll notice about this picture is that's a fully loaded dump truck driving on the wrong side of the street. So, a couple of months ago, we as citizens threw up our hands and said, enough. Something has got to be done about this. So, exactly 2 months ago, we emailed all the pertinent parties and said, come on guys, you got to give us a break. The developers came back and said, nope, you're right, we're going to put in the construction road and we're going to put up the signs. And they were going to do that within a week. Neither one of those things happened. Then they came back and said, we've got some issues, we'll put it up within 2 weeks. None of those things happened. Looking now specifically at the signage that was supposed to be implemented, you see that the neighborhood has two main entrances, one to the north on Kenridge Drive and one to the south on Diamond Head. This is where the neighborhood thinks the signage should be because that's the entrance to the neighborhood. However, looking at those corners, you'll notice no signs. Now, the developers have put up signs, but they are within the Langston Heights neighborhood, which means as a truck is driving through the neighborhood, they already get into the Langston Heights, notice the sign, what are they going to do? They're not going to turn around and drive back. They're already there. So no signage. And that signage was put up for the first time this week, even though that was a condition all the way back in 2013. The signs were first placed this week. Problem two is the road. Looking south on Silver Rain, they say the road is in, but again, trucks have been using it since this road is quote unquote in. Looking south on Renaissance, there's no even semblance of a road there. Looking north from Bob Billings, it's a dirt road that can't really handle the traffic. And that's why we continue to see the traffic today, even though the road is open. And so we, as the neighborhood, are really starting to demand some action. This road has not been in use for a year. I know city staff report said it was used for most of 2014. Unfortunately, that has not been our experience. On June 30th of 2014, the city installed a water main on Bob Billings, which effectively blocked the traffic at that point. Now that project was completed on August 15th, but the entirety of the time from June 30th of last year, 2 weeks shy of a year, that traffic has been coming through the neighborhood. And we're talking about dump trucks, excavators, and the myriad of pictures that we showed you. And this is coming through every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, both up Palisades and both up Crystal Lane. The signs were never posted until Monday, and they should have been up all along. The use of the road is really universal. There were no caveats to we were going to use it when it was convenient. There was nothing about we're going to encourage folks to use it. We were given the deal of their zoning approved, you get the construction road. There really wasn't a whole lot of gray area, at least that we saw. And the traffic's really not incidental. That's a word that's been thrown around in the memo from the developer. This is major traffic, and it is going through on a minutely basis. So what we are looking for is some clarity. We'd like you guys to tell us today, what is the traffic that is approved and is not, so that it's clear for everyone. Ensure that the signs are posted in a position where folks entering the Diamond Head neighborhood are going to see them. And by the way, those signs are garage sale signs, vote for me political signs. They're this high off the ground. Dump truck drivers up here, right? So even if they saw the signs, which are already in the other neighborhood after they've come through our neighborhood, they're not going to see them. Get big signs, put them at the entrance of the neighborhood. It strikes us as odd that we're here today again, because there were 3 conditions that were tied to this approval of zoning. Construction road hasn't been in use for a year. Says it's open now, still not being used. Signs were never posted, and covenants, they've done fine with the covenants. So they got 1 out of 3. We'd really like to see some both clarity and either encouragement or enforcement in terms of using that construction road. Because as we left the meeting in 2013, all of us thought we were on the same page. We thought we knew what we were getting, and that hasn't been the case. And so I wouldn't want to leave here today and just have everybody say, well, we're going to do this, because that's where we were 2 years ago. We were going to do that. So we'd really like to see some sort of enforcement encouragement. I don't even know what you can possibly do, but we would really demand that the traffic is removed from our roads and done so in an immediate time frame. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Eric. We have questions for Mr. Boddicker.
Yeah, I guess I just go back to the question I asked Tim a minute ago. Are you disagreeing with the, would you be disagreeing then with the statement that the road has been built?
It's really a philosophical question, and I don't mean to be funny. The road exists, so you can see where it is, but if no one is using it and folks can't use it, is it serving a purpose? Is it doing what it was intended to do?
But you would agree the road is there? So if the physical road
there's
exists.
an obvious path there to take.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions? All right. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Other public comment on this item? All right. We'll bring it back to the commission. I feel like we should all get in a big van and just ride out there and look at it for ourselves.
Just make sure it's a smaller van.
That's right.
You better use the road.
That's right. So we obviously have some issues here, and I appreciate both of the good work and presentations that both of you guys put together and walked us through. I have a question for Amy. Maybe this is for Chuck also, but what is Planning Development Services' interpretation of what was agreed to back from 2013 versus what is actually happening now? Are they adhering to what we approved them to adhere to?
And I think Chuck can also chime in here, but I think one of the difficulties is what was outlined in the staff memo
memo is that while there was an agreement to install a temporary road, the conditions of that were not spelled out. Was it just for infrastructure? How should it be maintained through wet weather? What was the appropriate size of the signage? None of those details were incorporated.
Okay.
I concur.
Okay. All right.
Is it possible to just dump gravel or something on it to make the road more usable in wet weather?
It has some gravel on
Will more help? I guess that's what I'm asking.
it. Yeah, well, now what's gonna help with the positive thing is.
You might.
Mr. Santee, can you come up to the microphone, please, so we can hear you?
We're, hopefully this time next year, we'll have all the roads done, the interchange be open, and we won't have to sit here and talk about what truck goes where or whatever. But, I mean, Eric, you know, he's got some good points, but he gets going, you know, there's not, you know, not exactly like that. Maybe it's not our way, but I mean, we're trying to work with them. We have access, you know, we basically had to move it from where it was originally, and that was to build the subdivision in our mind. But we always want to have it available, and I think you'll see going into July, it'll be dry, we have some gravel, and everybody will start using it, and hopefully they'll see an improvement, you know. But the good news is hopefully this time next year, we'll have everything done, and then we can even hook up Langston Hughes grade school and get it all figured out.
Can people use it now?
What's that?
Can people use it now?
Yes, absolutely.
So dump trucks can go on it?
Well, not everybody. Now, you know, I mean, but like I said, our original agreement, and I think we held up to it, was all the construction for the subdivision went out that way. There's no way, you know, I'm a home builder, but how can I control every contractor? That's over 300 contractors. Now, we can police them, we can say, hey, and when they see it and they experience, then they're going to be excited because they don't want to go through the neighborhood either, you know. So, I mean, we just have to, you know, keep dealing with it. And I'm sorry I get so emotional about it, but I mean, I think that, you know, in the big picture, we've been doing, you know, above and beyond the call of duty. And, you know, we continue to do that, so.
Can we make some bigger signs for construction traffic?
Yeah, but we have a sign ordinance in my community, and it can only be so big, you know, so we can do that. But, I mean, I think really what'll happen is the networking will get it.
Commissioner Soden, in response to the sign question, the election size signs are the largest signs that we can use without a sign permit. That's one issue. Another issue is the location that Mr. Boddicker talked about as being preferred by him or by some of his neighbors. That's off-site. It's not our property. It's not our jurisdiction. It's not our place to put signs. So those would be a couple of examples of an expectation that we can kind of go in and wave a magic wand over certain areas, and we would if we could, but, you know.
How long does it take to get a sign permit approved?
I'll allow staff to answer that. I think it's a 60-day cycle, but I'm not entirely sure.
We could do a sign of community interest and place it out in the right of way. We've done that on our construction projects. We could probably do that, if that would help.
It seems like that would help.
Sounds like a good idea. Maybe we should do that tomorrow. See, that the government doesn't have to be slow.
We wouldn't build a sign, we would just give them the authority to put the sign up.
Right, right.
So they build the sign and then we put it up? Is that what he's saying?
No,
They can put it up in the right of way.
But we would do it
We
under
would let them put it up in the right
a
of way.
sign of community interest.
Can we add more gravel or something to the road? To make it more usable in case it does keep raining? I mean, it could keep raining. I don't wanna assume we're gonna have dry weather this summer.
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
Can we add more gravel to the road to make it more usable?
I'm not going to tell you that we can't. But my response, Leslie, is more responding to the nuances that we all need to kind of get our heads together and grasp. We're not merely talking about a little temporary construction road to get in and out of a site. This road is a half-mile long. I mean, let's picture how far a half mile is. It's a long way. So geologically, geographically, the conditions one encounters when grading a half-mile long roadway, they're varied. Some places hold water a long time, some places have groundwater. Some places have substandard subgrades that require treatment. So a half mile is a lot of gravel.
Well, you tell me then what we can do to make the road more usable.
Well, I'll reiterate that we have been working on the installation of the road that you saw a picture of for a couple of months. It's been a lot of earthwork, a lot of machinery, a lot of man hours, and a lot of money. And it's not a perfect roadway, and when the weather gets really bad, we're affected in the same way every other construction site in Lawrence Douglas County is in the same weather. Things get shut down, things get delayed. The contractor that we had online to show up tomorrow with their equipment is now delayed. They've got other projects that get in the queue, and it gets messy. But long story short is, we agreed to build a temporary construction road. We have built it. We agreed to put up signs. We put them up. We agreed even to expand our energies to incorporate an education process to the multitude of contractors that are busy in this new neighborhood, and we've done so. And I just can't imagine what else we could do in addition to that that wouldn't seriously point to this project being treated differently than the other 400 or 500 acres of immediately adjacent developing neighborhoods that have taken place over the last, 15 years or so. And, that's an issue. We want to help, but we can't do everything.
Well, it would be good to make it usable. I guess that if the developer continued to use the residential streets that apparently weren't designed for the heavy traffic, we could always build them to fix those streets, or we could have a proper construction road.
I'm not sure I understand. Would you please repeat that?
It looks like those residential streets aren't designed to handle that kind of heavy traffic.
Not at all. They're
Truckloads.
totally legal to drive there. I mean, are you kidding me? You can't drive down the street.
Well, I'm just trying to get Tim to understand that there's a cost either way.
All right, we're getting out of hand. Please sit down. Let's,
We can choose our cost here, is what I'm
Right.
saying. We can work on the construction road, or we can work on the residential street.
Okay, well, I'm going to repeat myself and say that we are sympathetic and we're sensitive and we're on it. But there are some other very poignant facts. These are public streets. They're open to the public. They're open to other pickup trucks. They're open to other kinds of construction vehicles. These are the same streets that have facilitated phase upon phase, subdivision upon subdivision of West Lawrence growth over the last 10 to 20 years. We have already ameliorated the situation by providing a temporary construction road. Granted, it hasn't always been perfect. It hasn't always filled everyone's expectations of what it's supposed to be. Some days I would flat out say it's less effective than other days. But it's no different than any other subdivision. And those streets that you're referring to are public streets for the purpose of facilitating public traffic, which comprises or is comprised of, in large part, the kind of traffic that builds houses in new neighborhoods. The construction traffic is a reasonable use on a public street. They are public streets.
I've got a question for Chuck. Or Mr. Souls. Sorry. Were those streets designed to handle this kind of traffic load for this length of time?
Well, obviously, when a development develops, there's going to be the construction traffic to develop it, to build the homes or the commercial areas. So yes, they'll handle those loads for a short period of time. I mean, until it's developed, it wouldn't be expected to be an Iowa street because it wasn't built to that standard. But for the residential development and the residential traffic, it'll be fine.
So the streets look like they're getting tore up pretty badly. They look pretty poor. So what can be done so they don't continue to degrade so that it becomes difficult for just a regular car to use?
It's just standard maintenance. I mean, that's what we have our maintenance programs for. I don't know how old those streets are, and our specifications have changed for the better. So we're, the roads that were put in Langston Heights Edition will outperform the ones done in Diamond Head. But, we'll maintain them just like any other public street. I would assume part of the issue for the neighborhood may also be with construction traffic and all the rain we've had is the mud and stuff on the streets, on your streets.
It actually washes off pretty quick.
With all the rain, yes. That's typically the issue we get when construction's happening, going through existing neighborhoods, and at that point we would get with the developers and the contractors and ask them to clean it up. We haven't had that issue yet or that complaint, but I'm assuming it will be coming.
Good. I think I was not on the commission when this decision was made to require the road, but I'll be honest with you, I haven't lived in Lawrence a very long time, and having paid my way through college doing construction work on new residential developments, it seems very strange to me, first of all, that conditionality was ever put on. That being said, it was put on. So herein lies the real problem we have today, and this is what got back to the question that I asked both gentlemen, was has the road been built? And whether we talk about it philosophically or not, I'm looking at physically, has the road been built? Honestly, the problem we run into is there's no actual action on this action, okay? Because if we go with the action says the developer should complete the temporary construction road, which both parties agree has happened, okay? The road should be built by June 19th. Well, today's June 16th, and apparently it's happened. The road should be maintained in a rut-free way. Here's where we start getting to the technicalities of it. What does the actual road look like? How much gravel exists on the road? What color are the signs we're putting up? There's so much minutia that gets into this. The reality of the situation is, whether you're talking local government, state government, or federal government, regulations are easy to pass, enforcement not so much. We can pass all the regulations we want, and we can tell Tim that he needs to have all of his trucks, maybe a good start would be to get them to drive on the right side of the road, apparently, but after we convince them to drive on the proper side of the road, we can tell them to drive up and down this construction road. But if we don't actually have an enforcement mechanism in place, and I'm not going to tell Chief Khatib to park 10 cops out there and arrest every concrete truck that goes down a residential public road where they legally have the right to drive down because it's a public road. I think we can take all the action we want and we can pat ourselves on the back that we help the neighborhood, but I think the reality is when it comes to actually enforcing this, I don't know that we're going to be able to do anything. And the PowerPoint you pointed out, the quote from Scott McCullough, I wish I would have written it down, because his quote was something along the lines of, I don't know how we would actually ever possibly enforce this. I think I would reiterate that. I don't know how we're ever going to actually, unless we all take turns as commissioners doing a neighborhood watch and sitting on the street and redirecting traffic. We can take all the action we want, but there's no real action that's going to occur. I think we need to make sure that the road is built, which apparently it has been. I think we need to make sure signage is in place. I think, you ought to listen to the neighbors' concern that the signs are in the wrong place, put the signs in the correct place. If you put the signs in the correct place and the street is constructed, I don't know how on earth we're going to police this. When you're talking about that many contractors, we can talk a lot tonight, but I don't know that we're actually, no matter what we do, going to help the neighborhood in the way they want to be helped.
Other thoughts?
Just a comment, if I could, Mayor. Tim, you made a statement that this project being treated differently than other construction projects in town. At the going back and reviewing some of this, and as somebody that was a part of the commission that dealt with this, yeah, I think it was treated differently. because of the access issue that was pointed out. Was that the final decision that helped with getting all the rezonings and everything done? I believe it probably was. The fact that there was another way in and out. Now, maybe we did screw up in that we did not specify how that roadway was to be built, what the construction was going to be. But I think that there was an assumption that it was going to be built and maintained to a point that trucks in and out were going to be able to use that at all times. Now, that doesn't say that in the conditions. And as Amy said, we believe that the conditions have been met so far on this site, correct? Did I read that right? Okay. So, yeah, back again, was it treated a little different? I think it was because of the access issues and the expectations that we have. I do, like Commissioner said, we have a responsibility to make sure that the signs are put in place where they need to be. I disagree a little bit with Matt. You know, I'm not going to say that we put 10 police officers out there, but you know, I do think that we have the opportunity. If somebody's driving on the wrong side of the road, we have a responsibility to go after them. But you know, those kind of things. You know, I would strongly suggest that you talk to in a way of expectation of people using that roadway. That's what it was there for. That was the reason that, you know, at least for my vote, was the final decision in that development.
For the sake of clarity, and I don't assume that you're speaking for everyone, but in this conversation, I want to bring the Public Works Director back into it and ask Chuck if, I mean, would Langston Heights get with you to determine the optimal location and then go through, you use the term sign of public interest, was that right? Yes. Is there a process that engages the city as a partner in getting this public interest initiative mobilized and the signs up? Or are you suggesting this would be the onus of the developer? How do you perceive this, for clarity?
My suggestion, Chuck's suggestion. My suggestion is, Chuck, tell them what they need to do and have it back here on Thursday so that we can have those signs put up. So it can be an agenda item, or if it doesn't have to be an agenda item, if it's something that for public safety we can just do, or David has the opportunity.
Good point. I think we do bring those back to the commission just for approval. It's usually consent item, approving sign of community interest and it's put up. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Send
can.
back on Thursday.
Yeah, we can write something up for your agenda for consent for next week, and we can identify the location and the size and what it's going to say. I think their sign, what they had proposed looked good. I didn't realize obviously they were like realtor size, but it's again it's a neighborhood. We don't want on billboard size. We want the appropriate size. So,
Commissioners, if it is desired by the commission to authorize those signs this evening, even though we don't know the exact location, I think it would be okay if you all passed a motion authorizing those signs of community interest subject to the Public Works Director getting with the neighborhood on the location.
So moved.
Well, he made a motion. Does it have a second?
Who did?
Stuart.
Oh, he did? Sure. Second on the signage?
Yeah, hold on, wait, can we clarify what we're moving right now?
What Diane said,
What I was suggesting was if the commission wanted to pass a motion this evening to authorize the signs of community interest at a location that would be determined by the Director of Public Works in consultation with the neighborhood.
Do those signs then become on the city's dime?
We would work with the developer on those.
Would you explain that aspect of this fuzzy conversation? Elaborate on the sign, the placement, and the cost.
What happened? Correct me if I'm wrong, Diane, Commissioner. Tomorrow I would get with the development and yourself perhaps, and we would go over what size we want the sign, where the location would be. I can contact Eric and we can talk about that. I understand what you're saying, I don't disagree. It needs to be out of George Williams. Yeah, absolutely. So we come up with the location. We probably want to talk to the person that is actually maintaining that right-of-way, the property owner, the adjacent property owner, since they'll have that sign in there, probably where we are. But pending everything's okay, we'll, essentially the cost of the sign will be, and the installation of the sign will be up to the development to have completed.
That's the goal. The goal is to not have to come back here to get it approved here and to authorize staff to get it done.
Okay. So, motion and a second.
Second. And just so that, Tim, that you understand, I don't think that you heard what Stuart said, and it had to do with the fact that you will not have to come back before this body. You know, it'll be handled through staff.
Is there a specific number of signs that is being discussed here? I mean, we're talking about implications that, again, I don't want to leave and, you know, we're arguing over one sign or
I'm thinking, I mean, we've done these with what we call construction signage. They may be black and orange. Twin traffic or several contractors that probably the developer knows put those together and install them.
Well, listening to Eric talk before, I think we're talking 2 signs.
That's what I was
One on Diamond
And they have to be big enough so people see, probably 3 by 5, depending on what it says.
Chuck, we'll trust you to make the recommendation for, but my sense is, this is how we kind of got in this mess to begin with, was we weren't clear on what exactly was happening. So the direction tonight, so that all this can go away, so that the neighborhood can be happy that we effectively address their concerns, and so that the development group doesn't have to continue to have their development plans stalled or come at a cost for more money. We need to be crystal clear on what it is that we're specifically asking, and then this goes away. So 2 signs, 3 by 5, black on orange, at the entrance and the exit of the neighborhood. What are the signs going to say?
What did your signs say? Langston Heights Construct.
I'd be comfortable working that part out.
Totally fine.
Working that verbiage out.
Okay.
We've been through some versions of it.
Understandable.
Some more effective than others.
All right. So,
Mayor Farmer, could I just go on the record as saying, here in I mean, we're looking at a bigger issue here tonight other than just 2 signs. And I think I just want to go on the record as saying, here lies the difficulty with using conditionalities for development. You know, nobody wants construction traffic going through their neighborhood, but to have development, you have to have developers. To have developers, you have to have workers, and we don't airlift them into locations, right? And so it would be my wish that in the future, when we're designing neighborhoods, that we do not place conditionalities on public roads.
okay. Thank you. All right, so Langston Heights neighborhood, you're clear on what we're doing. 2 signs, entrance and exit. You good?
And really, it's just because there are 2 entrances, Diamond Head and Ken Ridge, it's just those 2 entrances.
Okay.
Would be fine by us.
Okay. Development group, does this sound like a good compromise? Okay. Motion made Boley, seconded Amyx. Herbert's comments on the record. You're going to work on the wording. Everybody's clear on what we're doing. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda is to consider adopting on first reading ordinance 9124, renaming the Lawrence Citizen Advisory Board to the Citizen Advisory Board for Fair and Impartial Policing, and amending the code provisions related thereto. Sounds so fancy. Who's going to be speaking to this? Oh, hi, Maria. There you are.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Maria Kaminska, Assistant City Attorney. I'm here to present to you ordinance, calm down a little bit, 9124, which makes 3 notable changes to our city code regarding the Citizens Advisory Board and then corresponding language under that. The first change that you'll be able to see in the ordinance is that the Lawrence Citizen Advisory Board, which was established in 2005, requests that its name be changed to something more specific. They're requesting the name change to the Lawrence Citizen Advisory Board for Fair and Impartial Policing, and staff studied that request, and we did not find anything under statutory language that would prohibit that change. The second amendment to the ordinance would come into compliance with state statute over the racial and impartial policing. The legislature has changed, or has expanded the name of racial profiling to now racial and bias-based policing, and the statute prohibits police officers to use national origin, ethnicity, gender, things like that, that are now included in the definition of other bias-based policing as an unreasonable reason for initiating law enforcement contact with somebody. So you'll see throughout the ordinance that it has been changed from just racial profiling to be consistent with state statutes so that it says racial and other bias-based policing. And then the third change, as you'll see also, is a date change. The legislature also requires all law enforcement agencies in Kansas to report annually any complaints about racial profiling to the Attorney General. Previously, the date that that report was due was January 31st, but the current statute requires the report be submitted by July 31st. The Lawrence Police Department does comply with that and does submit by or before July 31st each year, but the city code just needs to update that language. And you'll also see some language that was struck from that final provision, and that was four things that need to be included in the annual racial profiling report. And the reason that was struck is because the state statute is more extensive. Now there are 10 items that have to be included, which included the previous 4, but just so that we don't have to continue updating the city code language, we'll just link it to the state statute so that staff will be aware that always check the state statute to see if any factors have been added or deleted.
Okay.
I'll stand for questions if there are any, but I know that Chief Khatib wanted to make a few comments as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Chief?
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. I've got Baha Safadi with me. He's the chairman of the advisory board. We just would like to say, appreciate changing the name. The advisory board is very interested in looking at other things besides just the old definition, racial profiling and bias-based policing. We've been looking at fair and impartial policing for several years. It's something that the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center has been spearheading in Kansas. It's taken a leadership role, but it talks about just the role of police officers in society, not just using race or gender, but also ethnicity, national origin, just being fair and impartial to everybody we contact during our jobs. Bob, if you want to say a couple comments?
The chief sums it up that the name that we used to be using in the past, the Citizen Advisory Board, did not really cover our mission properly. With the new naming, we are opening the door to almost all citizens of Lawrence to be aware that there is a committee, there's a board that is interested in reviewing the cases and hearing all the reports that comes to the police department. And there's a comfort in that when they read that there is something existing in Lawrence who's working with the police department and reviewing the cases. We are trying to make the public aware that they can come to the police department and also come to us for any complaints that has to do with racial profiling, but not just only the race, but open it up a little bit more. So our request from the commission is to rename it to make it more applicable to our mission.
Okay. Thank you, Baha.
Thank you.
Chief? All right, public comment on this item. All right, back to the commission.
Mayor, I think it's a great idea. Appreciate the update on, the state law, and you say it's extensive on the items. The 4 points being replaced by 10 and more extensive. So anyway, Chief, appreciate all the work you do. Baha, thank you for stepping up and doing the work that you do on the committee. So.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot to it. It's got the support of the committee. It's got the support of the chief.
Absolutely. All right, so I was contemplating making a comment about how ironic it is that we want to make sure that we treat people equally in policing based on their ethnicity, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, and that sort of thing, but that we struggle doing that in our own state policies. But I don't need to make that comment. So I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 9124, renaming the Citizen Advisory Board to the Citizen Advisory Board for Fair and Impartial Policing and amending the code provisions related thereto.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve 9124, renaming, made by Commissioner Amyx, seconded by Commissioner Boley. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for your good work on that project. Next item on the agenda is to receive a presentation on the comprehensive annual financial report, the COFR, and I believe this one's Brian's.
Is that the gong already?
Thank you for gonging, chiming in. We appreciate it, Brian.
Good evening. I've been made aware that the city has not in the past received officially the comprehensive annual financial report. And so hopefully this is kind of a good start to go forward with doing that. Personally, I'm probably a little bit biased since I'm the finance director, but I think it's an important step to at least identify at the end of the year, here are our financial statements. My goal is in the future to get the financial statements to you earlier in the fiscal year with just the initial year numbers, and then the comprehensive annual financial report would follow with an official report. I don't want to take a lot of time. I could go through the CAFR step by step. I know Commissioner Boley has his report ready to go, but just generally speaking, as you go home and you review your CAFR, I just want to point out a few things about it. In fact, I could, if I knew what the website.
Oh, you just thumb on the bottom. Yeah.
I gotcha. So for everyone at home, how do I get to the menu?
Were you trying to go to the homepage?
Yeah, homepage. Oh, here we go. See how easy it is to do this? I just want to show everyone where it is. It's in the Finance Department in Accounting Division. And here's our 2014 CAFR. Again, it's posted. Everyone, again, I'm sure our website's getting really hit right now with everyone at home pulling this up. But generally speaking, the CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, it's put together in different parts. The first part is an introduction, just a quick introduction from city staff talking about here's what this document is. The meat and potatoes of it typically is our financial section. We have a management discussion and analysis in there. And then we get into the actual audited financial statements. And so usually people think of the CAFR as being the audit. The audit is included within the CAFR. And I will stop right there and introduce Sean Gordon. Sean is with Mize Hauser, who's they've been auditing the city of Lawrence for quite a few years, 20-some years. And so we were happy to have them. I'm going to just briefly go over this real quick and introduce him. He has some required information, communication to give to you. But so we have the audited financial statement. The next part is what we call the statistical section. It's a 10-year trend analysis, or not even analysis, just trends of data that we have that you can go through and take a look at. And then the final part of our CAFR is the federal financial section. It shows all the major grants that the city had received in the fiscal year 2014. There's some additional reports. The auditors, since we received more than $300,000 in grants, have a higher scrutiny of our internal controls. And so they go through our data and have specific reports to that. But that's kind of a handy place to go to if you wonder how many grants the city receives. I think around 4.9 million in fiscal year 2014. But that identifies which grants. And again, going through it, I want to make sure I take a little bit of time talking about the focus of accounting. This is where it gets really exciting for everybody here late in the council meeting. But generally speaking, we do our budgeting on a budget basis, kind of a modified cash basis, because that's the focus of what we're looking for. How much taxes or revenues do we need to fund the operations over the next year or next couple of years, however we look at it. And so that's a focus that we look at based on funds availability, basically. And so generally speaking, the governmental side of funds, the general fund, the special revenue funds, the debt service funds, that's how they are reported within financial statements in a specific audit. It's a modified accrual, basically. And the focus of that accounting is resource-based. And I really want to point that out because if someone who's normally used to looking at for-profit financial statements, they pick it up, it doesn't really jive too well with that because the idea of a for-profit is the net position of a business. And the idea of governmental funds is a funds availability. So you'll see our governmental funds that's recorded in here as funds availability type. And then our utility funds we account for in a for-profit, just like a normal business where we have a net position. And the reason for that is because we need to take the depreciations and understand the value of our system so we can set rates for the long term. So I know, again, I see everyone taking a lot of notes and everything. We can study this later. But basically, what we do, though, is we do a combination. We try to merge those two type of reports together. And that's our first two reports. That you hear, like your city auditor will talk a lot about net position. He's looking specifically at these two documents right at the front, and it tries to do change our governmental fund accounting into a net position. And so it's just a different way to look at it. So as we're talking about fund balances going into the budget, I just want to make sure you understand when you go to the audit, you're looking at those front pages, you're looking at a net position. The biggest difference is the net position, we're recording the value of all of our infrastructure. So of a $300 and some million asset net position in our governmental funds, over 200 million of that is the value of our streets. So we don't budget that way. We budget only for the next fiscal year. So that's why, as we're going into the budget season, to compare what you're seeing in the budget, you go into the governmental funds. And now I think Ashley and Mark is back here. They're wonderful finance folks. They're going through our budget you're going to start seeing, and you're going to be able to find that fund balance on your budgets and tie it back to what you see in the CAFR. I'm not sure we've done that before, but again, we want to have full disclosure. Anyone can pick up our budget, trace it back to the CAFR, and vice versa. So I just wanted to say a few things about that. Again, I can't overemphasize, this was a first process for us recently, and I do want to point out Commissioner Boley did find some mistakes in our management discussion analysis. I don't want to steal your thunder. I think you may have made some comments on that. I've gone back and reviewed, and quite simply what had happened is we were in a rush, quite honestly, to get the CAFR out in time for the bond issue. And so there's literally some copying and pasting from last year's report into this year's report. Full apologies. I'm the one who signed the document, taking responsibility for that. I will go back, we'll do an edit and republish that portion of the CAFR. And honestly, I don't believe there's any really material misstatements in there. In fact, there couldn't be. Our auditors did audits and there was no material misstatements in there. But I did want to acknowledge that and point that out. And I appreciate Commissioner Boley bringing those to light. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our auditor. He's going to talk a little bit about required documentation, and then we'll be happy to answer any questions. So.
Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Sean Gordon, as Brian said, and I am in charge of the 2014 audit. So I'll just go over kind of the required communication, like Brian said, with you. It won't be very long. First and foremost, the opinion that we issued for the audit was an unmodified opinion. That's the highest and cleanest opinion that we're allowed to give under state and federal law. Along with that, the federal awards portion that Brian was also discussing, The opinion we issued on that was also an unmodified opinion. Again, the highest and cleanest opinion we're allowed to give. So it reflects well on the financial management of the city. So please feel comfortable in that. The final thing I wanted to mention was the recommendation letter that should be included with your packet. We just made one recommendation on the audit. That has been discussed with Brian and his staff, and we will check up on that when we do the audit next year. So if you have any questions, please let me know.
Yeah, Sean, could you explain the concept of component units?
A component unit, in this case, the city has two, the hospital and the three?
Hospital, the library.
Yes, that's correct, and the health board. So they fit the term of component unit because the city kind of maybe assists them with appointing board members or something like that. So they must be included. If they fit three, I believe 3 of 5 criteria, then they must be included in the city's financial statements.
So while they're included in our financial statements, we really have limited responsibilities with regard to them, except for perhaps the library.
Yeah, that's correct. And the 2 units, the hospital and the health department, I'm sorry, the health department, were both audited by different auditors, and that's referenced in the report. So there's comfort in that as well.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up. The reason all 3 of them are on there is because their boards are appointed by the mayor. And so that's a level of control. It's not, that makes those 3 entities not a completely separate legal entity. And so that's why they're on there, sorry.
Can you also talk a little bit about the reconciliation on page 27?
And that's what Brian was referring to. It's
Right,
going
yeah.
from one basis of accounting on the government side to a full business type financial statement, including both enterprise and the government funds.
And again, what is the general concept behind that reconciliation?
You're going from, and that's just a report so that you can see that your reports match. And it's just including, you're taking the government funds and you're adding things such as depreciation and some long-term liabilities that usually aren't included in government funds, but they are included in full GAAP accounting.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions for Sean? Okay, Sean, thank you. We'll take some public comment and then may have some more questions for you. All right.
I do one more thing I neglected to mention. Sean had mentioned management letter comment. The management letter is from the auditor when they see something that we need to really take a closer look at. This year's management letter comment was specifically about the inventory ledger in the utilities department was off from what we had in the general ledger. He mentioned we're going to work towards doing it. We actually figured it out. It was a way that the subsidiary ledger was accounting for some things. And so we've rectified that, and now they equal. So it was basically, it wasn't where there was anything missing. Basically, the subsidiary ledger was accounting twice for some items, and we never did make any business decisions on the subsidiary ledger, only our general ledger. So we're happy to say that we've cleared up the management ledger already. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Public comment on the coffer.
We ought to have copies of this at the door. I mean,
That's right. All right, bring it back to the commission. Stuart, take it away.
Well, it's great. The financial statements are great. I mean, I really appreciate the unmodified opinions. I have concerns about the management discussion and analysis. There are some.
What page are you looking at, Stuart?
Well, that starts on page 13, it goes on to page 20. And I understand that this was an interesting time for Brian, and a lot of things were going on. There was a big bond issue or something like that had him distracted. And really my interest is in the edited version. I appreciate your willingness to take another look at it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. So I feel we need a rigorous analysis of this, and English, so if you don't want to read the whole thing, you can read 7 pages and get the gist of it.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Again,
Brian.
I appreciate those comments and very well said. Thank you.
Okay, other comments?
Pretty thorough to me.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to receive the COFR presentation and to direct staff to edit the management discussion. And then to bring that back to the commission timeframe?
Whenever.
Okay. Timeframe, what do you think?
It's not urgent, I don't think.
Immediately after the budget.
So next week?
Sure.
After the budget?
I can get it done in a week.
Okay, you good with that?
I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay, is that a motion?
That's a motion.
All right.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to receive the COFR report and to direct staff to edit the management discussion. Made by Commissioner Boley, seconded by Commissioner Amyx. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Sean, thanks for being here. Stuart, thanks for your expertise. All right. Next item on the agenda is a discussion on affordable housing with Justice Matters. Let me just give a little bit of background, Randy, so that folks know why we're here. We had received a note from Justin, right? Sturdivant, Matt Sturdivant. I was thinking about Justin. I don't even know a Justin, I don't think, not many of them. But Matt, who wanted to meet with Leslie and I, and we just felt like it would be appropriate for us to continue having these conversations at a business meeting with the whole body, so that we can continue to move the conversation forward. So, floor is all yours.
Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners, my name is Pastor Randy Weinkoff. I'm the pastor at Emmanuel Lutheran Church, and along with Reverend Matt Sturdivant and Reverend Matt Zimmerman, I've co-chaired the Justice Matters Affordable Housing Working Group. And I've been asked to speak tonight on behalf of Justice Matters, this coalition of 21 religious organizations, regarding the use of the remaining funds in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Let me start by saying we believe the intention of conducting an affordable housing study was coming from a good point. But we do not consider it the best use of limited funds. And so we'd like to suggest a different approach tonight. To outline this approach, I have 3 basic suggestions. I will state each one, give reasons for them, and then accept any questions from you. Our first suggestion is that you amend Ordinance 7357, passed in 2001, which created the advisory board to oversee the original Housing Trust Fund. We suggest a restructuring of the board to include a member of the Housing Authority, Family Promise, Habitat for Humanity, tenants for 2 homeowners, someone who is living in assisted housing, and a member of the faith community. Number 2, that you would charge this new advisory committee to use the remaining funds in the trust to demonstrate within the next year a collaborative and innovative affordable housing project directed specifically at transitional housing to exemplify what happens when we invest in people in need of a home. And then number 3, that you would ask your staff to arrange whatever is necessary to open up the discussion and communication during the July 17th Housing Conference so that you all can speak freely with the public about what has, and you can then hear from experts what has worked well for them and how that can be applied to the needs here in Lawrence. So why a demonstration project instead of a housing study? I think all of us know the problem exists, and we know that Affordable Housing Trust Fund is a major part of the answer. The reason we know this is because we can look at the city's own memo on affordable housing. In 1993, the city commissioners created a study group. A year later, they recommended an Affordable Housing Trust Fund, which eventually came into existence. In 2005, the city conducted another study on housing, this time through the Community Housing Assessment Team, or CHAT, and this group recommended that 1,690 affordable owner-occupied homes and 2,347 rentals be built. 2 years later, they also recommended $500,000 in funds to the Housing Trust Fund, but those funds were never realized. So 2 times we have studied the need for affordable housing, and both times have come up with the need for an affordable housing trust fund. But if the repetition doesn't persuade you, consider the delays. The 1993 study calling for an affordable housing trust fund took 12 years before it actually created housing in the community. In 1992, the public called attention to housing concerns. In 93, the city appointed a study group. In 94, a housing trust was recommended. 6 years later, in 2000, a housing trust fund was created. In 2001, an advisory committee was created, and in 2005, money was allocated. 1992 to 2005, 12 years to create housing. The CHAT study and recommendations made in 2007 didn't actualize, and they later were shifted over to the 2020 Horizon discussions. So if the repetition and the delays don't persuade you, consider the fact that once we got past the studies and the trust fund setup delays, the trust fund actually created some successful projects. The original Housing Trust Fund allocations created 11 permanently affordable homes through tenant to homeowners, helped Habitat finish the Comfort neighborhood with 16 homes, and helped the Housing Authority add 9 rental properties. For a one-time allocation, it was very successful. So we would suggest doing something different. Show this city what an effectively managed housing trust fund can do to address the need of transitional housing. And therefore, we go to the conference on July 17th to hear how other cities have funded and built affordable housing, and then discuss openly the options here at home. Now, this brings me to my next point, the conference in July. We've been working with tenants to homeowners to develop an agenda that will develop or demonstrate the need for affordable housing, identify legal sources of funding that other cities have used, and highlight innovative approaches that meet the need. We believe one important factor that will determine the success of the conference is the ability to discuss ideas openly with you. We have been told that all commissioners may attend, but cannot answer questions, or speak to the public, or speak among themselves, as this is a violation of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. We were told that we need to have a microphone, it needs to be open to the public, and we can't have small group discussions that include more than 2 of you in one group. Now, we believe these restrictions placed in our dialogue are a very conservative reading of the law. We believe in the spirit of the law. We believe that it is designed to prevent groups like this from conducting public matters in private. But in this case, the law is limiting the public's ability to discuss a common good, that good of affordable housing. We respect the interest of the city attorney to ensure that no one violates the law, but we believe that we can accommodate whatever we need to do to satisfy the law, and at the same time provide an opportunity for real dialogue about this issue. So again, our suggestions are, number 1, to amend Ordinance 7357, passed in 2001, which created the advisory board to oversee the original Housing Trust Fund, to restructure that so that There is a member from Housing Authority, Family Promise, Habitat for Humanity, Tenants to Homeowners, a member living in assisted housing, and someone from the faith community. Number 2, to charge this committee to use the remaining funds in the trust fund within 1 year in a collaborative and innovative way to show transitional housing for those in need. And this will exemplify what happens when you invest in people. And then number 3, that you might ask your staff to arrange whatever is necessary to allow for really open communication on July 17th, so that you can speak freely with the public and housing experts about what has worked elsewhere and how that might be applied here in Lawrence. Thank you, Commissioners, for your time. Thank you for your service.
All right. Thanks, Pastor Randy. We have questions or comments for Randy or any of the Justice Matters group?
No.
Okay.
I guess, Mayor, if I could, I guess I was caught a little bit off guard on what the item was on the agenda. So I appreciate, Mayor, you and the Vice Mayor wanting to bring this, before the entire commission, allowing us to hear it. So I want everybody to know that. I think that was a smart move, so thank you. I mean, it seems to me that the opportunity here is that if we want to consider, this idea between doing a study, or it almost sounds like Pastor Randy's saying, this new organization or the new appointments would probably be doing a study of really what the housing needs are, right? In a lot of ways.
I think we've been doing that since December.
Yeah, but I mean, to get us to the point next year, the deadline, whatever it's going to be.
Exactly.
Okay. So it seems simple to me, Mayor, place those items on the agenda, at a future meeting, and we can have that discussion as a group.
Okay. So,
I mean, we talked, excuse me a second, Mayor. We talked several weeks ago in one of our study sessions about, and heard a number of commissioners talking about, should we do a study, or should we actually invest in, those dollars into, the people programs, to make sure that we, we're meeting needs. We do a lot of studies. Golly and Molly, we do a lot of studies. And I think a lot of them are really, we have to do them. I mean, we have to know where we are. Well, we've got a lot of studies now. So, I would probably be one as much as I want to see the study done. I think a lot of times kind of remember where you came from and you make those investments. And I think that's probably a smarter course of action. I appreciate the work that you've done in the membership of the new organization or the organization. I would make a suggestion. We might want to have people from the building community, on that group also. I mean, there's a lot of good thinkers, in the Home Builders Association, and, I've been asking questions, and I know a number of commissioners asking questions about, the effects that we have on affordable housing on every decision we make. I mean, we had a mirror this evening about those kind of things. So I think that is another group that we might want to take into consideration. The people that are involved in the Home Builders Association, they step up and do a lot of great things for people, and I mean, we need to recognize that and the amount of work that they do. So I think that's another organization that might want to be, or, FAST might want to be involved in that kind of organization also.
I'll share your thoughts, Commissioner, with the group.
Okay, thanks.
Mayor, if I could, on Monday night, I had the opportunity to join the mayor at his conversations with the commissioner, public invite session. I don't know what we call it exactly, but over at 6 Mile Tavern. And I wanted to relay a little bit of that conversation to you. I know Charlie Bryan was there, so he may have relayed some of it already, but we didn't have a very good turnout. There were, besides the two of us, maybe half dozen people. So I wanted to kind of share with the room some of the things that were talked about, because this issue came up about how best to spend that money. And I think that the mayor and I might disagree just conceptually, but at the root of it, I think we both agree, that ultimately spending the money in a meaningful way is a priority. I think where the disagreement occurs is what that term meaningful way means. And I tend to be a believer that where a study could be effective, And this is, you had brought up on Monday the concept of Austin and the study Austin did, which I think is a great example that where I see the difference between Austin and Lawrence, Kansas in this matter is I only see a study being effective if we have a permanent source of funding to follow. As in, if we have $109,000 and we devote $75,000 of that to a study, and from that study comes 3 suggestions that we do this, this, and this, well then if we have a permanent source of funding that follows that, well that's meaningful, that's impactful, because now we have great advice on how to properly spend the money that we have in the future. Where I see us being different than Austin, however, is I don't see that sustainable source of funding existing yet, because it doesn't exist yet. And so my fear is that we'll spend all the money that we have, or 3/4 of the money that we have, to come up with a series of suggestions that we then don't have any funding to implement. And so what we'll have in front of us is a $75,000 coaster, you know? And so I think when we go to talk about the study, perhaps before we even discuss the study, the discussion needs to be on, is there going to be a permanent funding source? Because if the answer to that is no, then I will not support a study. I will support putting that $111,000 to use in a meaningful way immediately. If there is to be a permanent funding source, then I think the conversation about the study totally changes light. So that was the conversation. I just wanted to relay that to you because the conversation wasn't had behind your back, but it certainly is about a topic you're obviously very interested in, so I wanted you to hear the conversation as it was presented Monday night. So.
And I think that is why from the very beginning we've emphasized strongly at the July 17th conference, where the experts are coming here to share with us what worked in their communities and the resources that they were able to raise and how they were raised. So, thank you, Commissioner.
Has your organization identified a goal in the area of housing for the next 3 years or so?
Specifically, not yet.
Okay.
We are working on tonight's meeting, of course, the July 17th. But then if those funds are open to us, we would really like to do that demonstration model for you all.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add?
Well, I'm certainly in favor of creating amending the current committee as he suggested. I think that's a really good idea. We can add someone from the home builders industry. I think that's a great idea. And having them in charge of the 102, 105, 107, however much it is, 100 plus, I think that's a really good idea. So I'm totally in favor of that.
So let's do this, specific to your asks. I would also suggest talking with the group about, and Commissioner Nancy Thelman's here from the Douglas County Commission. I think the more strength we have amongst elected officials to have this conversation, the better off we're going to be. So I would recommend that as we do that Affordable Housing Trust Fund group committee task force, that we also add somebody from the county, appointed from the county, and then maybe somebody appointed from the city so that we would be a part of those meetings too. You don't want it to get too big, obviously, but because that would leave us at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 home builders would be 9. So just some thoughts. So how quickly can you talk to your group, and if we were to get this back on the agenda, say July 7th, is that doable for us? I mean, it's just amending an ordinance. Is that, Tony, Randy, Diane? Doable? So can you...
I can get an email out tomorrow.
Okay, so can you get feedback on, because we basically want to have it all set up to say we want to appoint these people. Are there any other folks that we feel like should be included, other than the 9 folks that we... Okay.
I wouldn't grow it much bigger.
Okay.
Mayor?
It's a big table already.
Yes.
Just a point of clarification. In, later on, that ordinance was superseded by ordinance 8501, I believe, and that board became the Social Service Agency Board, which stands today. So just a point of clarification, we may be looking at a brand-new ordinance and a brand-new board.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that. Legal department and planning, crazy. Nice work, Amy.
That was fast.
So can you get that email out tomorrow with those additions, and then get some feedback, send it to me or Diane, either one of us, and that way we can get that on the agenda. We don't want to put it on there if you guys are going to not be okay with it, so let's have some conversations in between now and then.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And then to the second one, and that was, right, the second one was the demonstrative, and then the third one being the July 17th housing conference. We'll talk with Tony and Randy and find out what we might be able to do for that specific day, but certainly want to be responsive to what you guys are asking, and maybe concurrent with the, well, we could talk about that another time, but getting this on the agenda July 7th. Okay. All right. Good with commission?
Yeah.
All right. We need to take public comment, so that's what we're going to do. You're more than welcome to come up and tell us what you think about that, or if you think it's good, then we can get done a little bit early tonight, so it's up to y'all. All right.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I definitely want to have all 5 of us, in
See, because stuff gets done.
way. See, well, yeah, seriously.
When was the date for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund group? July of 2016?
17.
Was it 17?
And now it's
20.
July 17th, 2015.
July 7th, 2015.
17th.
It's a Friday.
No. When was the goal that Justice Matters had suggested that we have an Affordable Housing Trust Fund commit,
January 1st.
2016? So we're 6 months early. There we go.
That's what we do here.
Sure, Ben, yeah.
I did just want a clarification. We did want to eliminate the waiting list for transitional housing by January 1st, 2017.
There you go.
Which goes to your point,
Yeah.
Commissioner Bowley.
Yeah.
And that list stands at 75 individuals and families at present.
Okay.
And, great.
Thanks for
I'll add
clarifying,
one
Ben.
public comment, Rebecca Buford from Tenants to Homeowners, that I think this demonstration project, because I know Commissioner Amyx, you asked about or were fascinated with leveraging. My hope is that we can show cooperation with the nonprofit entities and show how we can pull in additional money with the 100 plus that we're being given. What can that leverage for this project? Because 100,000 plus is not going to build 75 units. And I don't know that we could build 75 units even with amazing leveraging. But I think it can demonstrate to you and the community what leveraging can do with a community commitment. So thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you all for being here. It was a productive conversation. We'll see you back on July 7th.
Thank you.
July 7th, July 17th. 2017.
Yeah, July 7th, and the conference on the 17th. Then 2017, we're going to have the waiting list go. There we go. Lots of sevens.
Yeah.
Triple sevens is good, Pastor Randy. You know it. All right.
Awesome. That was great. I'm very happy about that.
All right. So I would entertain a motion now to recess into executive session for 20 minutes for the purpose of discussing matters related to negotiation matters confidential at this time. Motion made, seconded to recess into executive session by Commissioner Amyx, seconded by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll see you at 9:04.
conversation that has to happen.
All right. We are back in session. We have nothing to report at this time. Future agenda items.
Mayor, Vice Mayor and I and Casey and Tony and Lori have been involved with the city manager search. Wanted you to know we went through interviews yesterday. Just want to tell everybody we've had some great response to our request for proposals from various companies that do these searches. And I mean, I think we're very well represented out and around. We've got a lot of people looking after our interests, so that's something that's very good. I did want to tell you, I think Vice Mayor and I and staff wanted to have this item back on the agenda this next week. It may, just to let you know, may take cause because the organizations that we're dealing with are that good. We want to make sure that we make the right decision. So if it has to go to the 7th, I just wanted you to be aware of that.
Okay, great. You got it.
Yeah, what was great is when we interviewed them, they really said over and over, we figure out what your values are, you tell us, and then we make sure you get the right fit. So that was always really good to hear over and over. That culture is very important, the kind of person that you get.
Yeah, hearing the word value over and over again
Yes,
was very good. Yeah.
It was good.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Just wanted you to be aware.
Thank you.
In addition to that item, for next week, there will be a brief presentation and then hearing from you all related to the cultural plan. So the consultants for that are going to be here. In addition, the East 9th project, formerly identified as the 9th Street Corridor project, will be coming before you with a draft work plan approval. So that item will be here. We are expecting possible fiber agreements. They may be ready for next week or they may be on July the 7th, but those will be coming forward. And we also have a grant related to the intersection of Wakarusa and Herbert that we'll be visiting with you all about, and a resolution on refinancing some debt where we can save some significant costs.
Was that 620 East 8th, was that the Black Hills building? It's still on the future agenda. I just want to make sure it's the same one.
Sorry about that. We will take that off.
Okay.
Yes, that is, and again, they have
Not a new
drawn
one.
that.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Commission items.
You were going to bring up something, weren't you?
No.
I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, a lot.
I don't remember what it was.
Another study session next week.
You should.
Then you have a break.
That's right.
Oh, wait, it's the 30th, we get the break.
That's right. That's
I
right.
had heard that Mayor Farmer was hosting a barbecue that night at his house.
That's right.
You might want to get that on the public record.
Yeah, that's right. But it's actually going to be a barbecue study session.
Yeah.
We're going to do a survey first to find out if people in Lawrence like to barbecue.
Exactly. Send it to 2,500 people at a cost of $50,000. Too soon? Just kidding. Just for you, Matt.
Chad,
All right.
Chad, print that right, would you?
Right. Or not. His computer's closed. We're good. All right. So, commission items, none. We good? All right. Calendar. Just have the health department community celebration. That's this Thursday at 5.
Yeah, I can't go to that.
I don't think I can be there.
I'm going to go. The Valor Golf Tournament. And then we've got a whole plethora of other things coming up. Okay.
That June 29th, the Douglas County Town Hall meeting, Tony Wheeler, Mrs. Tony Wheeler. The June 29th Douglas County Town Hall meeting, is there any issue with 5 of us being there? I don't know if 5 are going to be there, but in speaking, is that, I mean, I don't need to know right now, but I just wanted to ask.
Well, again, the Kansas Open Meetings Act does have certain requirements, and you can attend conferences and you can attend meetings where you will be receiving information, and you can go as attendees. I mean, that has generally been that is the recommendation I've made, that you can go as attendees and just avoid communications about direct city business with 3 members of the commission.
So that applies even to a county commission meeting?
Well, if we're having a joint meeting with the county and it is noticed as a meeting of the city, then that doesn't apply because you're sitting in a public meeting of the city.
Okay. Well, I plan on going to that, and I'm sure I'll be speaking. So I'll be sure to say that this is just me speaking. This is what I'm hearing.
This is a Douglas County Town Hall meeting?
I don't know. I haven't studied
just
this
reading
meeting.
it.
June 29th.
I can look at that meeting and find out how it's going to be arranged and get back with you.
Just let us know.
Yeah, if there's some legal adjustment that can be made,
Okay.
if other people want to go. I don't even know if other people want to go.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made to adjourn by Commissioner Amyx, seconded by Commissioner Herbert. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Good night.